So, our hero, the guy everyone thought was supposed to save the world, totally flipped the script. He sided with the Demon King and actually destroyed everything. Yeah, you heard that right. He even handed over his awesome, legendary sword at the end, like he was all done with hero business. The Demon King was not impressed. She called him vile and said he acted like a hero, even though he cut down his own friends, his family, and his lover, all because she told him to. But our boy had his reasons. He only did all that so he could become her subordinate. After seeing how much he helped her, the Demon King agreed to his wish. Deep down, he felt like it was the only path he could take. And now, the demon said, her army should have already finished eliminating the remnants. She declared that the world's destruction is only a matter of time now. One by one, many familiar places are collapsing. Our MC slaughtered his old friends, and even the people he loved. He killed them all, with his own hands. It begins with the dark sorcerer Kanya, who cursed him for betraying them. But she accepted her fate. She just said that she regretted it. Due to her lack of power, she couldn't take him down with her. She told him that she would watch over him, as he suffers and writhes to the end, in this crumbling world anyway. And just like that, our hero ended her life too, and the cycle repeated. Every friend he killed voiced the same disappointment. How despicable our hero had become, a traitor among them. It began with the Grand Mage Iriana Filiard, whose her final moments were filled with rage and bitter curses directed at Frey Rayon, and Princess of the Empire, Klana Sola Sunrise, who could not believe that her empire, one that had stood strong against foreign invaders without yielding for 1,000 years, had fallen because of their own most trusted vassal, and Saintess Fel Rokesh Astarad, who, in the final moments of her life, gave thanks to God. After finally realizing that our MC had abandoned them, she swore that it is her duty to tell God what kind of person he truly is. But his lover, Serena, accepted her fate. She told him that she loved him anyway. Man, that was rough. Then, just like that, he became a villain by his own hand. And he must do that because he believes it is necessary. Then the Demon King praised him for his work and told him to destroy the sword. But our protagonist had other plans. He surprised her by pulling out the sword again and showing that he wanted to die together with her. This was his only way to save the world and all the people he cared about who were now gone. They fought, and after the clash, our hero suddenly woke up. Except now he was way younger. He soon realized he had gone back in time. Just before he started at the academy, he checked his system and saw a new title, Path of the Villain. Because he finished that crazy quest, dying with the Demon King after killing his friends, he unlocked some secret path. And the system said that if he succeeded, unparalleled happiness would come to him. And with tears in his eyes, this time, he swore to himself that he would save everybody. About 10 years before, when Frey was just a kid, he asked his dad about some weird, wormy letters on a piece of paper. His old man told him those letters were called kana, and only people with their family's blood could read them. That's when our MC realized his dad was talking about all those weird letters in the family's old books. His dad then quietly took him to a mysterious entrance and told him to go in alone. Our boy was curious and asked why. His dad said he needed to stand strong because of some old prophecy. A hero with their bloodline would vanish with the Demon King after beating some evil ruler, and that the Demon King would come back in 1,000 years. A new hero would also appear to save the world. But there was more, not just the famous part everyone knew. The rest of the prophecy said both the Demon King and the new hero's successor would show up in their time. When our hero understood all that, his dad sent him into a dark room and slammed the door shut behind him. Of course, he started freaking out and banging on the door like any normal kid would. But then, he saw this soft light, so he decided to follow it. That's when he found the legendary hero's sword. As he reached out to touch it, a hologram person popped up and told him not to. Frey, being a little freaked out, he raised his hands up and asked who this guy was. The man said he was Frey's ancestor. Our hero didn't really believe him at first. He thought the statue of the hero was way too handsome to be his relative. That definitely made the old hero kind of annoyed. The ancestor then asked if Frey was there to find out how to conquer the world. But our MC said he only came because his dad told him this was how he could protect everyone he loved. Since that reason sounded a lot like the old heroes, the ancestor told him that the world could turn out pretty rough and not always have a happy ending. Yeah, our boy was super confused. So, the ancestor put his palm on his face, and boom, our boy saw a vision of demons destroying the world. The ancestor told him that's what would happen if he made the wrong choices. After seeing all his loved ones die in that vision, Frey dropped to the floor, gasping. The old hero told him it was normal to feel like that the first time. Wiping his tears and feeling fired up, our hero swore, just like his ancestor, that he would protect everyone he cared about. The past hero almost forgot that Frey was actually his successor, so he promised to teach him the right way. He repeated the process, putting his hand on his head again, but warned that it wouldn't be easy. Our MC would have to destroy the world himself and die with the Demon King to unlock a secret path and face new challenges. The ancestor hoped the kid would stay strong. He also taught him, once Frey entered the hidden route, new trials will await him. But he, reminding him again to not lose his heart. Okay, now, back to the reality. Our MC thought things were going pretty smoothly, except now he had this strange system in his head. While he waited for it to finish updating, he guessed it would be useful in the future, just like those prophecies he saw as a kid. He felt sure that, with this system, he could handle whatever came next if he just kept learning. And on the route of his ancestors showed him, methods to use this also appeared. He thought, if he mastered the system and accomplished that in the end, he can protect the world where everyone lives. Right then, someone knocked on the door. It was Kanya. Frey felt happy and told her to come in, thinking maybe he'd finally get a little break. It had been a while since he saw her smile, after all. But just as the system finished updating, it warned him that someone was coming. At the same moment, Kanya walked in, and then the system dropped a bomb. The 5 main heroines actually remembered everything from the last timeline. That was when our boy realized he was in hot water. The system explained that he had to keep acting like a villain to earn points, and if anyone found out he was actually doing good things, he'd lose a ton of life force. Right now, he only had about 100 points. He could use those points to buy stuff or skills. Then the system gave one last warning about the heroines remembering, and suddenly did an emergency activation. He freaked out and said that nobody told him about this. Man, our MC was in big trouble now. Now, he looked up and saw Kanya giving him a death glare, so sharp it could cut through steel. She was his childhood friend. And she's also one of the 5 main heroines mentioned in the prophecy. But because she had this nasty curse that drained her life, and after all the bad stuff he put her through last time, Frey thought she'd want to kill him for real, and, at any moment, if she truly retains her memories from the previous cycle. But then, out of nowhere, Kanya asked him if he was hungry. Our protagonist, trying to look cool but secretly freaking out, told her to bring him the usual food. She glared one more time before leaving, and the second she was gone, our hero lost it. He knew she was out for blood, so he started planning how to survive her revenge. Just then, the system popped up in his head and announced that it detected a strong, murderous intent near him. This was all thanks to his special skill that could sense one really deadly threat a day. Our MC tried to figure out if Kanya would really try to off him, but he knew she couldn't get away with it so easily because he is her master, and if she did that, she wouldn't get away unscathed either. He wondered, even in this situation, does she hate him so much she wants to kill him? But guess what? Kanya came back, and she brought soup. The second she walked in, our MC could just feel the death vibes coming off that bowl. He was sure she had cursed the food with her dark magic and was trying to poison him for a quick trip to the afterlife. Bro, he was cornered now. So, what did our boy do? He realized he must go full villain mode. Then, he started yelling at her for bringing soup and said he wanted sandwiches instead. Then, just to make it extra dramatic, he threw the bowl at the wall near her. That was cold. But hey, being wicked got him one fake villain point. Kanya, looking super pissed, stormed out to make his sandwich. A few minutes later, she came back with a sandwich that honestly looked creepy. Still playing his part, he told her there was no cheese and told her to do it over. Kanya tried to argue, but Frey just gave her that classic, "Who do you think you are?" look, and asked why she was talking back. She backed down and went to try again. For the next while, she kept coming back with new sandwiches, and our MC kept finding reasons to complain. Too dry, not enough cheese, bread was weird. He made her go through this like 8 times. By the 8th try, she was wobbling and barely holding it together. She had used so much magic to curse the sandwiches that she was totally drained. And the last sandwich was definitely poisoned. Our MC picked up the cursed sandwich and acted like he was going to eat it. She looked super eager, probably hoping he'd finally drop dead. But he just tossed it in the trash and said he'd rather have the soup from before. Then he told her to make it again. That was savage. But suddenly, Kanya just collapsed on the spot, but our protagonist caught her before she hit the ground. He gently stroked her hair and thought it was pretty cruel that fate wouldn't even let him share a laugh with her, even for just a bit. He put her on his bed and realized that earning these fake villain points was way more dangerous than he'd thought. When he saw how weak she was, our boy decided to help. He used his life force to fill her up with energy and fix her cursed body for now. He figured he wasn't going to live long anyway, so why not use his own energy for her? Once he finished with that, he started thinking about how to crawl out of this crazy situation, since his old plan was basically dead. He thought about how, in the next 2 months before the real quest started, he wanted to keep things low-key and get ready, without anyone noticing. But with things going so wrong already, he knew that plan was toast. He still hadn't run into the other 4 heroines yet, so he tried to figure out the best order to meet them. Serena, his fiancée, wasn't a big worry right now. Princess Klana was out of the game. She didn't have the power to mess with him. Felrochesh, though, was a naive church girl who could smash his reputation with her connections. And Irina? She was straight-up dangerous, wild, reckless, and totally willing to kill him without warning. Kanya's hands were tied too, since her sister was basically a hostage. But no matter what, he needed to get more of those fake villain points, even if it meant taking some big risks, because without enough power or survival skills, he'll be killed quickly. Then, he thought he couldn't get much more from Kanya, so he'd have to go after riskier points from the other girls soon. Thanks to what he remembered from the prophecy in his old life, Frey decided to sort everything out tomorrow and get ready for the real fight after joining the academy. That night, he just hit the books, reading the prophecy until the sun came up. In the morning, he looked over and saw Kanya still out cold in his bed. He picked her up and put her on the floor, then let out a long sigh. Suddenly, he yelled at her for sleeping so much. She woke up, super confused and suspicious, probably thinking, did this dude do anything weird to me? But Frey just told her to get moving and prepare the carriage because he had to go to the academy for his first day. Our hero, still a bit grumpy, left to do what she was told. That's when our MC finally looked at his system window and saw he still had just 100 points. He muttered to himself that wasn't nearly enough. He'd need a couple of hundred to buy real skills. So, he'd have to keep pushing for more points, but not so much that he died in the process. While watching Kanya set up the carriage, our boy forced a smile, telling himself that life at the academy was about to get wild. Later that day, after Frey gave his big entrance speech, a crowd of nobles gathered around him. They all acted super fake, praising him and hoping to get on his good side. Some students even brought up a business deal, saying they wanted to put their products in the palace and had brought some commoner girls for Frey's entertainment. That was gross, but our MC played along. He told them he'd think about it if they proved themselves, but in his head, he was disgusted and wanted to take them down one day. For now, though, he needed the points, so he kept acting like a scumbag around the nobles, and, yeah, those villain points started stacking up a lot faster. Then, out of nowhere, he saw a bunch of rich idiots dragging some girls into the room, and that's when he realized one of them was Irina. Well, she is not just anyone. She's a legend with elemental magic, especially fire. She's a genius. Normally, nobody in their right mind would even try to touch her. So, our MC couldn't believe his eyes and started thinking, no way she got caught by accident. Maybe she planned this, to get caught on purpose and wipe everyone out in one blast. That would be classic her, honestly. That's when our hero freaked out and pulled up his system shop. He checked out his villain points and, knowing things were about to get insane, bought himself an emergency defense skill. This thing cost him 70 whole points, but he didn't even blink. If he died now, game over. For real. The skill promised to save him from one death blow, so it was totally worth it. Right after, he found out Irina was looking weak because her mana was drained. That was super weird, since she never runs out of magic. He figured she must be saving up energy to explode it all at once, which sounded like a suicide move if you asked him. While she struggled with the nobles, our MC suddenly told everyone to get lost. The room went dead silent. The nobles gawked at him like, what the hell? But he just repeated himself, this time sounding way meaner, and said he wanted to have some fun with the ladies. Those spoiled brats ran out in terror, leaving the girls all alone with our villain. After they left, he strolled over to the red-haired girl and acted extra creepy, telling her they should have fun somewhere quieter. Irina stared right at him and called him disgusting, saying she wished her ultimate magic had hit him instead of the Demon King's army. Ouch. Our MC just grinned like a psycho and told her to shut up, then reached out to scare her on purpose. Irina cursed quietly, annoyed she got caught before midnight, and braced herself for something terrible. She started to have her tears now, anyway. But plot twist, when she opened her eyes, she saw that our MC was passed out on the ground. Her friend quickly broke free and told her to run for it, since Frey was out cold from drinking. They both snuck out, super relieved they didn't have to deal with the scumbag any longer, and whispered that they were lucky to escape something way worse. Left alone, with the room spinning, our hero opened one eye and let out a big sigh. He could only act so crazy because of the emergency skill he just bought. No way he'd have risked it otherwise. But apparently acting drunk got him some extra villain points. So, hey, not a total loss. Then, midnight hit. The system popped up and explained that Irina had actually tried to curse him. If the skill hadn't blocked it, he would have been dead by noon the next day. But since he burned his once-a-year protection, Irina was stuck drained for a whole year. Lying flat on the ground, our MC realized he'd seriously dodged a bullet. And just when he thought things couldn't get dumber, Kanya burst in. She saw he was wasted, rolled her eyes, and hoisted him up, just like he ordered her to. With our hero flopped on her back, he thought it was kind of nice how obedient she was right now. Even if he felt like a total clown, he decided to push his luck and tried to use this situation to boost his own vitality. By doing that, he knows what's in her thought. Kanya, in her thought, told him he was still a scumbag, and that, if it weren't for her little sister, she'd have killed him already. Those words hit our MC hard. He remembered when they were close as kids, always together, but now she was promising to end him as soon as she could. She told him to wait for it. One day, when her sister was safe, she'd stop his breathing for good. That evening, back at his dorm, Kanya dropped him off. He tried to send her home, but she shut that down right away and said she was moving in with him. Our MC was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But she explained the Duke gave her strict orders to keep an eye on him, or else she'd get expelled. As soon as she finished, she pulled out a bed and started making it right there, not caring about his opinion. While she got ready for bed, Frey checked his system and almost choked. There were new rules in place, and they were not good for him. He read through the updates and found out he had no choice but to be a good student and go to classes every day. Worse, if even one of the main heroines died, game over. But the real kicker, he wasn't allowed to die at all, unless it was in the final fight. So, no more cheating death for our hero. He spent the rest of the night stressing out over these game over rules. While Kanya told him goodnight, he still freaked out about the crazy rules of this damn game. But he knew that complaining won't change anything, so he decided to play along. Next morning, Kanya came to wake him up for class. He yelled at her to leave him alone, and to his shock, she just left. That made him panic, so he had to shout for her to come back. In the middle of yelling, he started coughing up blood. He realized he must have given too much of vitality yesterday, and now he was paying the price. Kanya rushed over to see what was wrong, but he brushed it off and acted tough. Then, he turned on her, yelling and roasting her for trying to leave without his permission. He told she was like a fountain pen, shouldn't move by itself. That was savage. He even threatened to make her little sister his mistress if she had a problem with it. That was way too far, bro. Kanya broke down crying and begged for her sister. Our hero just smiled like a real villain and told her that her sister must be very precious to Kanya. So, he warned her to don't get any strange ideas. Just then, he walked out, earning himself 10 extra villain points. The system even warned him he might have overdone it. As he left, Kanya picked up her pen and remembered how precious it was to her, because it was her sister who gave it to her, Kadia. After our boy left the room, Kanya noticed blood on his bedsheets and started to wonder if our MC had always been this sick. Anyway, now, in the class, there was Miss Isaaret Alham Bywork, their teacher, standing in front of the class, doing her usual intro speech for all the students who actually bothered to show up on time. But then, boom, right in the middle of everything, our hero and Kanya came rushing in, totally late. Miss Isaaret was not having it. She roasted them, in front of everyone, and said she was taking away 10 points from both of them for showing up late. Our protagonist, being the professional scumbag he was, didn't even flinch. He just blamed Kanya for being too slow, making a big deal out of it in front of the whole class. But things got even weirder when Irina, that Irina, spotted Frey in the classroom. The instant she saw him alive and just chilling, she totally lost it and asked him, "What is he doing here?" Our boy said, "No comment," then ignore her. The red-haired girl could not believe her eyes, because honestly, she had risked her life using magic on this guy yesterday. and now he was acting like nothing ever happened. That was some horror movie logic right there. Just right then, the teacher said that the class is started, so they must keep their voices down. While the classes are held, our boy followed it lazily. He wondered why in the first day already have a class. But you know what? Just behind his seat, there was Felrocheche, watching him the whole time. After the first class ended, Felrocheche finally walked up to him and gave him this fake sweet look, asking if he wanted to follow her somewhere private. She said she wanted to bless him. But our MC was not stupid. The system already gave him a heads up that Felrocheche was thinking about murder, so he shut her down instantly. She tried to act all mysterious, saying her blessings were special and couldn't be bought with money. But our guy didn't even bother. He just turned around and left her hanging. Then came the second class, and Miss Iseret announced they were doing combat training. Everyone was supposed to fight her, one by one, in front of the whole class. She started wrecking the students left and right, not even breaking a sweat. Finally, it was Kanya's turn. She walked up to the ring and, unlike the others, actually held her own against the teacher. But something was off. She usually fought quick and smart, so she didn't waste her mana. But this time she kept dragging out the battle, like she was enjoying her little show. Our boy started to feel it. Because of his weird system, he was linked to her mana and vitality, and the longer she played around, the more it drained him. Bro was literally getting weaker just from watching her fight. Miss Iseret got super impressed and told Kanya she was way better than she expected. She wanted to see how long she could last, but she suddenly stopped and explained she had unstable mana from birth, and if she went on any longer, she'd lose control. The teacher got it then and said Kanya could become one of the strongest mages ever if she can handle her problem. Meanwhile, our hero was just on the sidelines, silently dying of relief, because if Kanya had kept going, he probably would have dropped dead right there. Next, it was almost Frey's turn, and he was actually pumped. He put on this pendant, packed with demonic energy, ready to cheat the system a little. But first, Arena went up to fight Miss Iseret, and, bro, she got flattened in seconds. The magic she used yesterday totally backfired. So, she had no power left and had to be carried straight to the nurse. Felrocheche took her turn after that. But she just gave up, saying it wasn't right to use her powers on a teacher. Then Miss Iseret told her to be prepared for some kind of disadvantage. Finally, it was our protagonist's time to shine. He walked up to the ring, grinning like a devil, already planning to stir up trouble for those sweet villain points. He started trying to piss off the teacher by talking trash and acting like a brat. But, instead of getting mad, she just got fired up and told him to show what he could do. Our boy started working, and demonic energy shot through him, giving him a big boost. He attacked so fast and strong that even the teacher had to back down and defend herself. The whole class was freaking out, because nobody expected Frey to come at her like that. Then, boom, he knocked her weapon out of her hand. So easily, it was almost embarrassing. Felroche suddenly shouted out that something was wrong. She saw the demonic energy coming from Frey, and the whole room went wild. Miss Iseret shocked and asked our MC whether is true or not. Frey, act as a brat, asked her to check. Then, Felrocheche rushed over to check, and, yeah, it was definitely a cursed item. The class exploded into chaos, just the way our villain wanted it. The system rewarded him with a massive 2,000 villain points for making such a scene. He was proud and started thinking that causing trouble within the school is the safest and most efficient way. Miss Iseret was pissed now. She told Frey to come to her office, and when they got there, she grilled him about why he brought a magic artifact to school. Our protagonist just acted cool and said the teacher was overreacting since it was only one little item. She got serious and asked what the hell happened to him. He used to be a normal kid, not this cold, careless jerk. After the system told him what she felt, which were anger, disappointment, concern, regret, and sympathy. For a second, Frey almost felt guilty, but bro snapped back into villain mode and started ranting about how he had to change himself to survive in a world that didn't care about feelings, and only idiots tried living honestly. Hearing that, Miss Iseret stared at him for a long second, then decided to let it go, since this was his first big screw-up. She told him to take her to the store, where he bought the pendant, because she wanted to burn the whole place down. Our hero said sure, and even joked about picking up more stuff while they were at it. But the teacher explained again that she's not going to buy something. But our boy just shrugged it off and said, tomorrow is fine. As soon as he left, Miss Iseret was left wondering just how her student turned into such a little demon so fast. When our hero got back to his room that night, Kanya greeted him with a fake warm smile. He wasted no time talking down to her, toed himself to bed, and noticed a black cat in her hands. She said it was a gift from her little sister, but Frey couldn't care less. A few hours later, when she finally passed out, our villain sneaked over and gave her a boost of vitality so she'd have enough to get through tomorrow. He figured he was being pretty sneaky about it. Too bad for him, Kanya was way ahead of the game. She had actually used her magic to hide her consciousness inside that stupid plushy cat so she could spy on him. Since seeing blood on his sheets, she had been convinced Frey was hiding something dangerous. So, she made the plush and used it to watch him whenever he thought she was asleep. He couldn't catch a break, even in his own room. He was being watched by a damn stuffed cat. What a mess. While Kanya's mind was chilling inside that plushy cat, she watched her own body just lying there, and she was sure Frey was up to no good. When he put his hands on her bare stomach, she lost it inside her head and promised that she was definitely going to kill this pervert when she got back into her own body. But, after spying on him for a bit longer, she noticed that our hero was actually in pain while doing whatever he was doing. She didn't really care. She just figured he was weird, like always. When he finished whatever wild thing he was up to and stood up, she got all tense, thinking he was about to do something even creepier. But nope, the guy just looked at the plushy cat. Kanya in the cat body started sweating. She was afraid he knew she was inside and would bust her. Instead, our hero totally surprised her and picked up the plushie to cuddle it like a little kid, all soft and cozy. Kanya was speechless. She had never seen this side of him, and the whole thing was just too weird. Morning came, and the peace was over. Frey woke up to Kanya complaining about her stomach hurting like crazy. He looked at her, rolled his eyes, and told her to go to the bathroom if she was feeling so gross. The guy even called her disgusting, like a true villain. Then the system popped up, telling him that now he has 200 points for misunderstanding and mishap. He was confused and had no idea where he got it. And yeah, he had enough to level up from beginner to intermediary stage. Not only that, but the system unlocked a whole new store for him. He wasted no time and went shopping for new items, wanting to get powered up fast. But then, ding, the system dropped a new quest. He had to stop an attack that would happen soon in the dorms. If he succeeded, he'd unlock the hero's weapon awakening. If he failed, his life force would get nuked. No pressure, right? Then, Frey realized he had to buy some new tools right away if he wanted to survive, so he got busy with the store. But before he could finish, Miss Iseret showed up at the dorm, knocking on his door. Our MC, being the bossy maniac he was pretending to be, ordered Kanya to go answer the door. The teacher nearly fainted when she saw Kanya in Frey's room. When she asked what the hell was going on, Kanya explained she had permission from the Duke to stay there, which seemed to break the teacher's brain. Miss Iseret stormed into the room, demanding to know why Frey would ever agree to this. Our boy saw his chance and started teasing her, throwing out a savage comment about her still being virgin, and he said she should experience it soon, or she'll miss her chance to get married. That one hit hard. Even the system thought it was spicy enough to give him more villain points. It succeeded make her angry, and Kanya went full panic mode, insisting that nothing happened in the room. But Frey just brushed her off and led the teacher out. They both put on some disguises and headed to the sketchy store that Miss Iseret wanted to destroy. On their way, they passed some nobles, treating poor people like trash, where he was playing around with women but never took a look at their child. The teacher looked like she was going to puke, and she promised herself she'd deal with those rich bullies next, right after finishing with the store. Our MC thought it is understandable, because she knew about the Empire's corruption and injustices, but she's never had a chance to witness it firsthand. Finally, they reached this old, creepy building. Frey said this was the place, and Miss Iseret didn't waste a second before charging in to start smashing things. While he waited outside, he spotted some commoners trying to kidnap a group of young girls. He heard the bad guys talking about how their master would be pleased. He tried to ignore it because his purpose for today is to finish the main quest well. But no, he can't overlook at that anymore now. So, he started following them. Classic, main character, move. The creeps took the girls straight to a brothel. When he tried to go inside, two big dudes blocked him, saying brats weren't allowed. He just tossed them some cash, and the guys instantly changed their tune. Money really does talk, bro. They opened the doors and let him in, like he was royalty. Inside, a young mistress woman greeted him with a magazine full of pictures of women, asking him to pick his favorite, but our MC said he wanted to see the real thing first. The mistress said that wasn't how things worked here. But Frey just flashed a huge bag of money, and suddenly, she was the most helpful person in town. She led him through a super sketchy underground passage, and while she walked, Frey checked her stats. That's when he found out she was actually the succubus queen. A straight-up minion of the Demon King, but he kept his cool and played along, planning his next move. He decided to investigate further since it got more suspicious. The tunnel ended at a nasty dungeon, where a bunch of women were locked up. When Frey came in, the mistress announced he was a customer who wanted to see them all smile. So the women gave him these fake, painful grins. The mistress asked if the scene was too much for him, but he shrugged and said he was actually into even younger girls. That was super gross, but he was just trying to get the bad guys to drop their guard. The mistress paused, probably thinking he was wild. But another fat bag of money made her change her mind quick. She led him to a secret spot in the wall and started to open a hidden passage. Before she could finish, he shoved her out of the way and charged into the secret room. Inside, he found a bunch of little kids, locked in a cage, with a creepy magic circle on the ground. It hit him right away. The succubus queen was getting ready to sacrifice the kids to summon the Demon King. There was magic circle, and this is where they gather humans to be used for. The kids saw him and started crying, begging for help. That's when the succubus queen, now in her true demon form, showed up with her army of dark soldiers and ordered them to grab Frey. Not today, lady. Our MC threw on a mask to hide his face. Since it will be troublesome if the kids see his face, pulled out his weapon, and absolutely wrecked every soldier in the room in about 2 seconds flat. Only the succubus queen was left, looking scared for her life. She begged him, saying she'd serve him forever if he let her go. But our hero just told her that he didn't make deals with scum who hurt children. And in the next moment, he took her out right there. No drama, no mercy. That's how our villain hero rolled. After saving the kids from the brothel, Frey handed out some cash to make sure they could get a decent meal. He told them to head straight home and not mess around on the way. The kids listened and left, probably still shaking. But before our MC could even catch his breath, the system dinged in his head with a notification about his reward for finishing a sudden quest. He checked it, expecting something big, but the reward was tiny. Like, seriously, what the hell? He started complaining in his head, feeling robbed after all that work. But then, one of the kids, a little girl, came running back. She wanted to thank him. He looked her over with his skill and nearly whistled. This girl had some next-level talent for magic. She could be a top sorcerer one day. So, instead of keeping the reward, our hero just handed it over to her. The kid stared at him in shock and asked why he handed her a ring. Our boy just told her that it was such an investment for the country. The kid pretty grateful and said she wanted to know his name so she could pay him back one day. But he told her not to worry, acting all cool and saying he was just doing his hero duty. Before leaving, he told her to study hard and become the best sorcerer out there. The little kid promised she would. She looked dead serious about it too. As she ran off, she decided in her heart she'd find him and thank him, for real, one day, no matter what. Funny thing is, Frey had no idea that this tiny moment would end up flipping his story upside down in the future. Guess you never know, right? Anyway, when he got back to the magic store, the whole place was already trashed. Miss Iseret was standing in the wreckage, looking proud of herself. She fired off a question, wanting to know where the hell he disappeared to. Our MC just shrugged it off and said he'd wandered off for a bit. Then, acting super casual, he mentioned there was going to be an auction soon at the Information Guild, and today's auction will feature a black magic artifact. The second she heard about a black magic artifact, her eyes almost popped out. She started bugging him nonstop for the auction location. But her excitement crashed and burned when Frey explained there was a barrier around the place. Nobody could get in without a ticket. Lucky for her, though, our boy had a ticket, and he told her she could get inside if she registered as his lover. That one hit her like a truck, but she went with it anyway. Gotta do what you gotta do for black magic, I guess. A while later, the two of them rolled up to the auction venue, pretending to be a couple. Frey only cared about one thing, getting his hands on that artifact. He figured nobody else knew just how crazy that magic stone was. So this should have been easy, right? But then he felt something weird. Someone familiar was nearby. Miss Iseret sensed his weird act, so she started to grab her sword and asked, "Is the artifact had already appeared?" When he checked it out, he spotted Kanya in the crowd, all disguised up. And just when he thought things couldn't get weirder, Klana sat down right next to him, totally clueless that it was him. As if that wasn't enough, Felrochich was there too, ready to jump into the auction. Now our poor MC realized all three of the main heroines were after the exact same artifact. He put two and two together. They probably wanted the item just to use it against him. Talk about unlucky. But he felt little grateful, because Irina isn't here either. Then, just for anticipation, he told the teacher not to call his name here. A few minutes later, the auctioneer rolled out the artifact, hyping it up for its insane power to control people and suppress targets. It's the Stone of Domination. He decided not to think about the main heroines. For now, securing the item is the priority. Since that stone is necessary to complete the first scenario quest, he thought it would be impossible without it. The bidding started at 1 gold, but Frey just went all in and dropped a bid of 15 gold. Inside, he said sorry for going high, but he can't let anyone have it. Klana wasn't about to let that slide. She jumped in with 20 gold right away. Then, out of nowhere, Felrachich tried to one-up them, but screwed up the number of zeros and yelled out 10,000 gold. The auctioneer was about to seal the deal right there. But Frey saved her by tossing out an 11,000 gold bid. Suddenly, some random rich guy in the crowd jacked up the price to 12,000. He realized that there's someone with a strange interest at the stone, which, at the start, it just looked like a random stone. This dude just wouldn't stop. Every time Frey bid, the guy bid higher. It was a full-on bidding war. But, in the end, our boy won by dropping a massive 55,000 gold. His wallet must have been crying. The second the deal finished, Kanya started working up some dark spell. She clearly wanted to steal that artifact. Frey rushed up to the front to grab his prize, but Klana came out of nowhere with a fire kick that blasted him across the room. She didn't recognize him in disguise, so she demanded to know who he was. But our MC had zero chill and pointed out that half her dress was burned off. Klana turned bright red and accused him of being a pervert. Then Felrachich jumped in, called Frey a Demon King's minion, and blasted him with a huge attack that should have turned him into ashes. But somehow, MC came out without a scratch. The two girls decided to team up and take him down together. But before they could do anything, the rich guy from earlier strolled past and both girls just dropped like flies, totally knocked out. That's when the dude pulled off his disguise and revealed himself as Eucharius, the great demon, and he just greeted him with his full name. Frey just stared at him, wondering why some big boss like him would show up in person. The great demon said he was pissed that Frey got the artifact instead of him, claiming he deserved it and that it would have made him even stronger. That's when our hero remembered. This guy must have gotten it in his last life, too. Suddenly, Frey saw Miss Iseret going all out in a fight against Kanya. That made zero sense. Eucharius explained that he put a spell on Iseret when she tried to attack him. Kanya was putting up a fight, but the teacher started winning fast. Then the demon said he was looking forward to the stone because he wouldn't be really strong without it. So, our boy concludes that now, he is weak. Just before the teacher could deliver the final blow to Kanya, Frey snapped. He pulled out his sword and went God mode, chopping off Eucharius's head in one move. But the magic on Iseret didn't stop, even with the demon dead. That meant Frey had to step in himself. Right as she was about to finish Kanya, URMC jumped right between them, using his own body as a shield and taking a massive hit. Yeah, that looked insanely painful. Our hero really had the worst luck. Full of blood, he fell into Kanya's arms. She asked his condition, but she totally confused. Asked who the hell he really was and why he kept helping her. Classic move. Frey just acted like she didn't exist. No, he stands ready to face the teacher. The poor guy knew he was in no shape to fight Iseret anymore, so he hit her with a special move. Boom. The curse on her vanished, and she dropped like a rock, totally knocked out, not even wasting a second. Frey used every bit of strength he had left to get out of there. He basically dragged himself through the streets, praying he didn't fall in the street or everything would be for nothing. He has to hold on until he get to the student dorm. Back inside, Klana and Felrachich finally woke up and nearly had a heart attack when they saw a dead demon just chilling next to them. But they weren't here for sightseeing. They went straight to Kanya and started talking about this extermination alliance they had formed just to hunt down Frey. They asked Kanya if she wanted in, and she didn't even hesitate, of course. She joined. Klana, being herself, started lecturing Felrachich about some dumb mistake she made in their last life that, apparently, let Frey slip through their fingers. While the two of them argued, Kanya spotted a little star-shaped brooch on the floor. The thing looked exactly like the one our hero always carried around. Fast forward to that evening, our boy finally stumbled into his dorm, looking like death. He quickly patched himself up and made sure to hide his wound under a new set of clothes. While he cleaned up, he couldn't help but wonder why fate hated him so much. Why did he have to face a Demon King's minion and run into 3 heroines all in one night? Dude just wanted one day off. Then, Kanya walked in soon after, looking like she was on a mission. Frey, still playing his villain act, tried to roast her, but she straight up ignored him and asked where he'd been all day. He snapped back that he was out shopping with his sister, Miss Iseret, then headed for his bed. But Kanya was already one step ahead. She said she saw a guy in the alley earlier who looked exactly like him and even used his style of sword. That made him nervous for a second, but he realized she didn't have proof, so he kept lying. But she wasn't done. She flashed the star brooch at him, the one he was supposed to have left at the dorm. When he saw it, he went full panic mode and snatched it back from her. Too late. She casually let it slip that she found it in the auction house. Busted, bro. His cover was toast. Before he had time to think, Kanya pulled up the back of his shirt and spotted the fresh bandages. That was game over. Now, she got really quiet and asked why he risked his life to save her. But before our hero could even open his mouth, the system smacked him with a brutal penalty. Instantly, his lifespan and vitality dropped hard. He doubled over in pain, coughing up blood, and collapsed right in front of Kanya. Kanya started freaking out, treating his wound, even though she could have just watched him die. She told herself this was her chance to get the truth from him, and if she didn't like what she heard, she could always finish him off after. So, she got to work with some dark magic. She dived straight into Frey's subconscious to see what was really going on in his head. The place she landed in was nothing like she expected. Calm and pure, nothing like the jerk Frey acted in real life. Suddenly, a tiny version of Frey, all nervous and shy, walked up and greeted her. She's not taking any chances, bound him with magic, and demanded to know if he was the real master of this place. He confessed immediately, so she made him swear under oath, magic, to tell the truth. The little guy swore, and she let him go. Then, she asked why Frey helped her at all. The kid said it was because Kanya was important to him. She couldn't believe it and wanted a real explanation because, in her eyes, Frey had done nothing but make her life hell. The little Frey explained that there was a good reason for his nastiness, and that he actually sacrificed his own life force every night to heal her. That hit her like a truck. She just froze. Seeing her so stunned, the mini Frey decided to stop talking and just show her everything. He revealed our boy's true goal, saving her and saving the world, which required him to act like the worst villain ever. He had to be hated and couldn't let anyone find out. That's why the moment she learned the truth, he collapsed. Now, she couldn't handle it. She dropped to her knees and started crying. Finally, realizing the truth, the master of the subconscious told her not to blame herself, since Frey didn't mind being hated if it meant everyone else could live. As soon as he said that, the mind world shattered, and she snapped back to reality with tears in her eyes. A couple hours later, our MC finally woke up. Kanya was still there, sobbing. He realized the cat was out of the bag, so he didn't bother lying anymore. He explained that he was locked into a brutal oath. He had to do evil things and act like a piece of trash to get stronger. But if anyone caught him doing something good, his life would get shorter. She finally understood why he'd been so cruel. Then, Frey reminded her that he used her for his own goals and said she should never forgive him. But she told him she had a reason to forgive, since he'd been saving her every night. He was shocked she even knew about that. When he asked what she planned to do now, Kanaya said she'd keep following him, just like always. She said she wouldn't rest until she paid him back. Our MC just nodded, because, honestly, he'd expected her to say something like that anyway. Later, over at a cat cafe, Princess Klana called Felrochich and Kanya for a secret meeting. Nobody else could know about their plan to take Frey down. Since they failed to get the Stone of Domination, they figured they'd just find his weakness and keep him on a leash. While Felrochich and Klana talked about their big dreams and revenge schemes, Kanya just sat there, secretly planning to play double agent for Frey. She knew fate was against her, but she wanted to help him in her own way. Her first plan? Make him a real meal, just to see him smile, even if it was only for a little while. So, she cooked breakfast for Frey, and this time, our MC actually told her it tasted amazing. Not only that, he admitted he always wanted to tell her this for a long time. Bro was being real for once, but he didn't give her time to blush or anything. Right after, he said he was going to give her his life force again. Kanya looked worried, asking if he was sure about it. He just brushed her off, saying it was fine, and that he'd never let her die. With no other choice, she agreed, but she begged him not to push himself too hard. She sat next to him, watching as Frey poured his life force into her. Even though he was clearly struggling, the penalty from the system was really screwing up his body, and she could see it. Suddenly, Kanya clutched her stomach in pain. Frey guessed right away that his star mana and her dark magic must have mixed together. He immediately started absorbing the mixed magic himself, even though she warned him not to do it. But he didn't listen, and kept at it until Kanya's pain finally went away. But then, things got worse. She noticed that Frey's left arm was turning all gross and plagued. She freaked out, but our guy just told her not to worry, since it wasn't even his main hand. He said it wouldn't be a big problem. She was still anxious, thinking it'd be tough to fix that kind of damage, but Frey told her again to chill, saying his arm would go back to normal once all this madness was over. She looked super sad about it, but she didn't argue anymore, and they both got ready for school. Later, in class, Miss Iseret had some news. She told everyone their midterm test would be a one-on-one fight. Our MC was not feeling great. His body was trash after all those penalties, but he cheered up a little because his villain points from all the chaos at the academy were stacked. He had finally bought every skill item possible, so now he could focus on the real mission. Once he accepted the main quest, the system hit him with a new task: fight and defeat Irina in the midterm exam. If he won, he'd score a life charger. But this quest wasn't mandatory, so he could skip it if he wanted. He took a second to think it over. Nobles who lost to Irina were going to attack the commoner dorm after the test, but if he won, lost, or even dodged the fight, he could mess with the outcome. He could frame someone else as the villain, play mastermind, or fight her and either win big or lose on purpose. After thinking it over, our boy picked the route where he goes full villain, just like the prophecy wanted, because he think it's much easier to play full villain than to choose an unknown route. No, Miss Iseret finished the class, telling everyone to prepare well or they'd totally bomb this test. She ordered them to pair up and report their teams by next period. While everyone packed up, Frey was still lost in thought, worrying, because Irina was so weak, now she couldn't possibly beat him. When Frey stepped outside, he saw some obnoxious nobles stomping on Irina and her friend. Apparently, these two girls had run away before and were supposed to be Frey's offerings. Instead of flipping out, he told the nobles he liked how they took initiative without his orders. One noble girl got all clingy, super happy to get praise from him. Frey just rolled with it and said he was honestly thinking about Irina anyway. Then, he walked up to her and acted all cold, asking why she ran away. The other girl snapped back, saying they weren't dumb enough to stick around and get used like tools. Our MC ignored her and just told Irina to accept his deal. Whoever won their midterm test would get to boss the loser around. The friend jumped right in, saying Irina should never trust him. But Frey just smirked and said unless she wanted to fight him herself, she needed to shut up. The friend clammed up fast, and Irina, kind of pissed, agreed to the deal. Our hero raised the stakes. If she won, she'd get 1,000 gold from him. But if she lost, she'd become his slave. Yeah, the guy was going full scumbag. He whipped out an enchanted skull pendant for a death oath and talked down to them, saying commoners were used to breaking promises anyway. That really fired her up. The nobles were surprised at his attitude, but Irina ignored her friend's warning and agreed to the pact. She pulled out her own pendant, and the second the skulls touched, creepy chains shot out and stabbed both their hearts. That's some next-level drama. Afterwards, he started trash-talking and acting cocky in front of everyone, and the nobles were totally impressed, especially the girl. He told them nobody was allowed to mess with Irina or her friend anymore, and that they should be like him. Real villains don't use other people as shields. Now that he was paired up with Irina, the nobles were all on board, and she wouldn't get harassed anymore. Problem was, he had to lose to her on purpose, even though she was running on empty when it came to mana. Let's be real, losing on purpose is never easy. Right away, the system dinged him, with 500 more villain points for the Death Pact, and a new skill shop opened up. He checked out the new skills and found one that let him transfer his mana to someone else. He thought, if Irina mana deflected, he can give her his mana. Perfect for his next move with the red girl. Frey bought the skill, making sure he could actually help her in the main quest. With a few points left, he kept shopping and saw a skill that made his lies a little more convincing. He bought that too, knowing he'd need it for all the nonsense he'd have to say later. To test it out, our MC loudly claimed he was a woman. This must have worked, because Felrachich overheard him and nearly had a heart attack. She bolted out of there, totally misunderstanding everything. He thought about chasing her to clear things up, but then decided, nah, who cares? No harm done. Fast forward 3 days. And Frey was crouched in the bushes like a creep, spying on Irina at the training grounds. Even with barely any mana, she was pushing herself hard, trying to train for their fight. Her friend tried to get her to take it easy, but she wouldn't stop until she could pull off a magic attack strong enough to beat Frey. Watching her struggle so much, our boy actually got a little emotional, like wiping away tears. Emotional. She fought through the pain and managed to create some fireballs. Our boy was super impressed. She was crazy strong for using that little mana. He decided he'd secretly send her magic to help her out. But all that training was rough on her, and her friend was worried. The friend even said she wanted to help Irina with some sneaky plan, because she was sure Frey would try something dirty. The second Frey heard that, he started scheming. He was excited, thinking he could use Irina's friend to pull off his own tricks. But Irina shot the idea down, saying she wanted to win on her own. If she accepted help, she'd be no better than him. Then, they back to the dorms. Meanwhile, our hero still watched them, and wishing Irina would just accept help for once. He had the same wish, since his plan would have been so much easier. But suddenly, a pigeon shows up and drops off a letter for our MC. Not a love letter, bro. A threat from Felrachich. She said she knew his secret and demanded that he come to the cathedral. Our guy just thought she was a pain and decided to go anyway. So, when noon rolls around, he drags himself to the cathedral, fighting with that heavy door like it's his mortal enemy. Inside, he spots her acting all holy, praying next to a random box. When she noticed him, she didn't even bother with a hello. Instead, she reached down, grabbed something out of the box, and demanded to know why he'd been lying to her all this time. Our hero was so confused. If she really knew his true identity, he figured he'd be flat on the ground, coughing up blood by now. Thanks, system. But nope. Felrachich pulled out a female maid dress. For real. She said the wild rumor about him being a woman would shake the whole world. Our boy was stunned. Like, what the hell was she even talking about? And why did she have a maid outfit ready? Right then it hit him. She actually believed that crazy rumor he'd joked about before. He calmed down, realizing she was just an idiot, and tried to walk away, telling her to do whatever she wanted. But she was not about to let him off that easy. So, she started examining him, by hugging him from his back. Then she realized that his chest was way too flat for a girl. RMC got offended and told her straight up that he was a guy. Of course, she didn't buy it. She challenged him to check below, too. What a weirdo. Our protagonist just snapped and told her that was a crime, dude. It took her a second, but finally, she figured out that there were women with small chests, but our boy just snapped it off. Now, she was embarrassed. After find out that he really was a guy, and her face went tomato red from embarrassment. But right when he thought he could just leave, she went straight for his throat, literally. She slammed him to the ground, crying, because Klana had found out his weakness and planned to have him executed, and she had actually wanted to help save him, if only he'd listened. She said now she had to end things herself. But then, she stopped strangling him. She realized that she was just misunderstanding and venting her anger. At this point, she felt guilty. But then, she stopped strangling him. She realized that she was just misunderstanding and venting her anger. At this point, she felt guilty. While Frey was choking, he realized Felrachich was just having a meltdown. So he played dead. The girl totally bought it. She called herself a criminal and promised to follow him to the afterlife. She even raised her magic-charged hand, about to off herself, right there. But the system dinged with a warning. He had to protect her from dying once a day. So, our MC jumped up and shouted at her to stop. Felrachich nearly flew out of her shoes. She could not believe he was still breathing. Dude, not gonna lie, she was so cute, pure, and stupid at the same time. Now, she went straight into magic mode, ready to attack, but Frey had a plan. He pressed a button on his shirt and played a recording of her admitting to the whole murder plot. Our boar told her he wasn't dumb enough to come here unprepared. Then, walked straight up and explained that if the public ever found out about her and the princess's scheme, she'd be in way more trouble than him. He decided to use her own threats against her, a classic villain move. He told her to put on the maid outfit and clean his room, or else he'd spill the beans. Even when she cleaned the place 5 times, he told her to do it again. She freaked out and yelled at him, so he just played the recording again until she kept sweeping. Eventually, she dropped from exhaustion, saying she couldn't take it anymore. Frey threatened her with a way creepier job, night service. But Felrochich said she'd rather the rumors spread than do that. Our MC didn't let up and slapped her. Yeah, that was messed up. Getting rewarded with 500 villain points for being a top-tier jerk. Then he reminded her that she was the one who begged him not to reveal her secret, and that she'd do anything for him. He went back to his seat, gave her his best death glare, and told her to just do what he said unless she wanted things to get much, much worse. She was shocked and pissed, asking what made him turn into such a horrible person when he used to be nice. Frey just thought she was trying to get sympathy. Felrochich tried bringing up how he once gave her a potion when she was hurt, but our boy had no clue what she meant. Suddenly, a weird memory flashed into his mind, she holding a potion. He had no idea where that came from. Now, Felrochich's mood changed real fast. She said Frey was pure trash now, picked up the broom, and kept cleaning. Our MC noticed that her feelings for him were completely dead, replaced with nothing but bad vibes. But honestly, Frey was fine with it. He knew that soon, anyone who cared about him would only get hurt because of the system anyway. Later that night, Frey came back to his dorm. Kanya saw him and noticed he'd been drinking, and asked why, especially since he'd been having nightmares. Our MC just told her he'd suffered the same thing in his past life. Then he told her to lie down, while he gave her some of his life energy. Kanya obeyed and started to unbutton her shirt, but that made Frey super embarrassed. He told her he didn't actually need to touch her stomach to transfer magic. But she didn't see the point in changing. But when Frey said how awkward it was, she finally realized, yeah, he's a boy. She blushed and agreed, lying down on his bed, but Sei gave him his back. While Frey poured magic into her, he asked her if she had entered his mind, while he was unconscious the other day. He was actually happy about that, but told her not to push herself. He said he'd done a lot of bad stuff in his last life, but she didn't care. She knew that in both timelines, he always risked everything to save her. That's our hero, always trashy on the outside, but still willing to bleed for his friends. While Frey was knocked out, deep in dreamland, and looking totally wrecked, Kanya sat beside him, feeling all kinds of useless. She promised herself she would help him out, since saving him for real was impossible. She picked up her old cat plushie, thinking it was the perfect disguise for sneaking into his dreams. After all, nobody would suspect a stuffed animal. With a deep breath, she started her little ritual and slipped right into his subconscious. Inside Frey's dream world, our boy wandered around, looking super lost, trying to figure out where the hell he was. Suddenly, out of the fog, this black cat popped up and padded over. Our hero stared at it, feeling something weirdly familiar. So, he just scooped the cat into his arms and told it to tag along. He didn't even question it. Classic Frey move. But then, he noticed the world getting all foggy, and as he peeked through the mist, he spotted his younger self talking to a tiny Felroche. Our MC thought this had to be a dream, but he kept watching. Little Felroche didn't know him at all, and demanded to know why he was handing her a potion. Then he introduced himself and said it just made sense to help someone who needed it. She looked like she didn't believe him for 1 second, and basically called him a liar. Now, our MC was thrown off. He didn't remember meeting her in some dirty alley like this. Wasn't their first meeting supposed to be at the cathedral? But he kept watching. As little Frey told her it was normal to be suspicious, then, chill as hell, said he'd just leave the potions, and she could do whatever she wanted. Felroche got curious, and asked where he was heading. So little Frey pointed at the cathedral and said that's where he was off to. He added that maybe he wasn't a good guy, but the church people could be trusted. She called for him to wait up, but the mini version of Frey just walked away. As the fog cleared, Felroche suddenly turned to stone. Yeah, just like that. Frey realized this wasn't just some random nightmare. He remembered slapping her earlier and started putting it together, as much as she acted clueless. She couldn't really lie, and everything he just saw lined up with her story. It felt way too real. Something must be messing with his memories, and now our boy was getting nervous. He thought maybe someone had jacked with his brain, because these words had triggered that whole memory out of nowhere. Suddenly, black fog rolled in, thick and heavy, and our MC got a seriously bad feeling. The next thing he saw was flat-out nightmare, fuel, a bleeding, tied-up Felroche with blood pouring from her eyes and mouth. Had a bad feeling about this. He feels like about to witness something even more horrifying. Then he realized he was floating in some dark abyss, and things were officially not cool. He desperately tried to find a way out, but that's when a voice echoed out, asking how long he planned to sleep and telling him to wake up. He looked up and nearly lost it. The bloody, chained corpse of Felroche stared at him with a creepy smile, calling him a criminal for putting her through all that pain. He shook like a leaf, but the nightmare wasn't done. The bloody corpse of her then appeared behind him, asking if he liked killing people. Our boy looked down and saw his own hands soaked in blood and started panicking, wondering where it all came from. Then, undead zombie versions of Kanya and Klana showed up right in his face. He cried out, begging for help, but the undead girls swarmed him, grabbing him and dragging him into a dark, twisting portal. Meanwhile, Kanya, still disguised as the cat, chomped down on Frey's arm, desperately trying to wake him up. She tried to pull Frey away from drowning in the sea of darkness, but it was very difficult to help her in the form of a cat, and our hero was trapped in his own nightmare, and she realized his subconscious was totally out of control. She yanked on him, terrified that her young master would end up just like those zombie girls in his head, a living corpse. She knew she needed to save him, but working as a cat wasn't cutting it. Meanwhile, inside the nightmare, our MC tumbled through the abyss. As he was about to be lost forever, a blinding light suddenly broke through the darkness. He blinked and found himself in a new place, way brighter and more peaceful than anywhere he'd been before. He looked around, confused, when a soft voice said that they'd made it just in time. He wondered who could possibly be talking to him now. Then, a woman appeared, seriously glowing, beautiful, and just shining like a goddess. Frey immediately recognized her as his mom. She wrapped him in a gentle hug and told him her final gift was protecting him from nightmares for a while. Tears rolled down our boy's face as she warned him that the path he had chosen was full of pain, and things weren't always going to work out. But, she told him, when things go sideways, he needed to remember what was most important and what he really wanted to protect. Now, back in the real world, Kanya woke up gasping, instantly worried about her young master. She jumped up and rushed to check on him, but there he was, reading a book like nothing had happened. She asked if he was okay and if he remembered anything from the dream. That's when it hit Frey. The cat from his dream was actually Kanya. He thanked her for giving him a bit of peace, even if it wasn't much, but she just apologized for not being able to help more. Then, our hero explained that he met his mother, the late Duchess, in his dream, and that she told him to remember who and what he wanted to protect, especially when life got rough. But he admitted he was scared, since his memories were getting messed with, and even the prophecy book he trusted might be a total fake. Kanya hugged him from behind and told him to trust her. As he held onto her hand, she told him he'd worked harder than anyone for the sake of others, and even if all his memories were lies, she'd never forget the way he lived. At that moment, Frey remembered why he'd chosen this crazy, hard path in the first place. He wanted to protect those he cared about. Tears ran down his cheeks, but he realized it wasn't the time to give up. No matter what, even if he failed, all his struggles and efforts were worth it. A couple of days passed, and finally, it was time for the big midterm test at the academy. Miss Iseret stood before the class and told everyone to come forward when their name was called. Our hero, Frey, felt a bit of relief that nothing crazy had happened since the last disaster at school. He was totally focused now, ready to face Irina in battle. Right then, the system inside Frey gave him a little warning. If he kept transferring too much magic through touch, someone could pass out from losing all their energy. But our MC thought he would be fine, since he'd trained extra with Kanya and upgraded his magic transfer skill a lot. No way he'd pass out this time. At least, that's what he told himself. Meanwhile, Klana and Felrochech were up to fight. The teacher explained that this time, nobody could quit, but Felrochech just waved her off and said she had no plans to run away. Then, she started charging up mana around her body, looking way too ready to cause trouble, and Klana got all her magic focused at the tip of her finger. Our hero watched those two and realized they were definitely plotting something, but he didn't freak out because he figured they couldn't hit him from that far away. Klana's mana grew super intense, and Felrochech put all her power into her fist. Then, just as she fired off her attack, Felrochech punched it right toward Frey. Only then did our boy finally get it. Their real target was him. They were trying to kill him, straight up. But before disaster could strike, Miss Iseret jumped in with her sword and stopped the attack. She glared at the girls and said she believed it was an accident because they'd be disqualified if they attacked our hero on purpose. So, with no other choice, Klana and Felrochech had to settle it the old-fashioned way. Now, Felrochech tried to punch Klana, but she dodged like a pro and hit her with a bunch of super fast strikes, sending poor Felrochech straight to the floor. The teacher called it. Klana was the winner, and now it was time for Frey and Irina to fight next. Then, our boy stepped up. Kanya shot him a worried look and warned him not to overdo it. But our guy just played it cool and said, not to worry, they'd already practiced how he could lose without looking like a total loser. Then it was showtime. Irina strutted into the fray and started trash-talking him, but he just gave her some bashful fake nice comments right back while secretly getting ready to act his part. Across from each other, our MC gathered mana, and Irina looked ready to roast him with fire magic. The second inlet yelled for the battle to start. He rushed at her. She was not messing around. She summoned 7 freaking fireballs at once. Even he was shocked, since he didn't think that was possible. But suddenly, she started coughing, and all her fireballs fizzled out. Frey pointed out that this was because she'd been using her magic too much. He stuck to his plan, charged forward, and drove his mana-filled hand right into her head, slamming her into the ground. Standing over her, our MC called her a pathetic insect. Yeah, he was going full villain here, and then decided to share some of his magic with her, but not in a nice way. While he tortured her with mana, she pulled a sneaky move. She summoned a fireball behind him and blasted him right in the back. Frey hit the ground, rolling in pain. She scolded him for attacking a girl and got ready to end him with a giant fireball. But he wasn't worried. He felt good about the one solid hit he landed before. She's started, gathered her mana again, and summoned another fireball. But Irina's mind just couldn't take it. Her brain started overheating. Her fireball disappeared, and she collapsed to the ground. Miss Izeret started counting. If Irina didn't stand up in 10 seconds, Frey would win. While the teacher counted, Frey actually started worrying. He thought maybe he went too hard on Irina because he dumped all his magic into that attack, when really, he only needed to land a single hit. Irina realized she was in big trouble too. Even though her magic power was recovering, she still couldn't get up yet. Then, out of nowhere, a glowing magic circle appeared around them. Frey totally freaked out. That was a teleportation spell. He tried to figure out what was happening, but suddenly, boom, they both vanished. The teacher saw it happen and told everyone else to stay put, since she hadn't even detected the spell before it went off. She warned the class there could be more traps. Meanwhile, one of the students in the back, Ariane, found a mysterious piece of paper and realized it was not a recovery scroll. Now, Frey and Irina showed up in a weird, creepy forest. He didn't believe now they were here. He started to check Irina and felt grateful because she's just unconscious and not injured. Then, our hero looked around and knew right away this place was bad news. It was the Grey Forest, the most monster-filled place on the whole continent. He wondered how the hell 2 tired losers like them were supposed to survive here. But then he remembered the student with the scroll, Ariane. He figured this was probably just a crazy accident and made a note to ask her about it later. As Irina was still out cold, he started thinking up ways to escape. That's when his inventory system suggested a new item, the Mask of Deception. This thing could hide his face and even change his voice so nobody could recognize him. The system was really coming in clutch. So he put on the mask and felt grateful he wouldn't be recognized, even if someone got right in his face. Then, Irina finally woke up, and our hero told her they needed to get out of there, fast. She was totally confused and asked what was going on. So, he lied. He said she'd been sent there by Frey himself, using a teleport scroll, but now she was safe, and just had to hurry. She was still lost, and asked who the hell he was supposed to be. He lied again, saying he was an intelligence agent from the Starlight family who got tossed in the forest after getting sick. He claimed Frey had brought him here to get rid of him for good, since nobody left the Starlight Intel crew alive. Hearing this, Irina didn't even question it. She immediately thought Frey had sent her to die. Not gonna lie, our MC looked pretty disgusted with that whole mess, but he kept up the act. He even claimed the sword he carried was left behind by a bunch of spooked adventurers who thought he was a ghost. Then Frey told her to follow him to a safe spot nearby, saying Frey would come back soon with backup. But she wasn't buying all of it. She said something seemed off, even if his story did make sense. She thanked him, but decided to go alone, saying she could handle herself just fine. She pointed out she still had about 10% of her magic left, and as long as no high-level monsters showed up, she'd be okay. Our hero could only warn her that she was being reckless, but Irina was stubborn, as always. Then, right after she tried to act tough and go off on her own, a giant bear just popped out of nowhere and blocked her path. Irina totally froze. She couldn't believe a monster that strong was right there in front of her, because a high-level monster should only exist in remote areas. The bear let out a nasty roar and swung its claws like it wanted to slice her in half. But then, out of nowhere, Our hero jumped in behind her and went full beast mode, cutting the bear clean in two. Irina just stood there in shock, probably thinking, "What the hell did I just see?" Frey let her know that this was exactly why he didn't want her wandering off. This forest was crawling with high-level monsters like that bear. But right as he finished, she freaked out and warned him something was coming from behind. He spun around and, of course, a whole army of goblins was charging at them, with weapons ready. That just pissed him off. So our boy grabbed her hand and took off running. The goblins chased after them like maniacs, but Frey was way faster and managed to drag her to a safe spot. Once they stopped, Irina wanted to know what the hell was going on and why there were so many strong monsters in this part of the forest. Our boy explained that the Grey Forest was basically monster central. Everything nasty ended up in there. Then, she noticed that his mask was covered in blood, and he was breathing super heavy. He said he was fine, but his chronic illness was acting up because he went too hard fighting that bear. Seeing him like that, she suggested taking off his mask so he could breathe better, and she even tried to do it herself, but our MC wasn't having it. He slapped her hand away and apologized, saying he didn't want anyone to see his messed up face under the mask. She decided to just accept that and told him to wait there while she went off to find some fruit or something, acting like she was a pro at wild survival. Frey was worried, so he told her not to go too far, since this place was a death trap. That's when Irina finally told him her name. He hit her back with a fake one. He called himself Rihanna. The red girl thanked him for saving her twice, but he brushed it off, saying he couldn't leave someone with the same fate as him behind. She promised she'd be back fast, then disappeared into the trees. The second she was gone, Frey took off his mask and, bro, his face was seriously beat up. He was actually relieved the monster showed up, because his story might not have fooled her otherwise. That bear rescue definitely made Irina trust him, at least for now. Remembering he still had that dual quest hanging over his head, Frey called up his system to see if he was going to get punished. The system told him his win was still pending, and there wouldn't be any penalties, since skipping the duel didn't mess up the main story. He figured the academy was just pausing everything, since 2 students vanished into the wilderness. With no system punishments, our boy decided escaping the forest alive was his new priority, since one slip-up in this place could get him killed fast. 3 painful days went by with Frey and Irina wandering the forest. She tried to act tough, but she had no magic, so she pretty much had to rely on our MC for everything. The 2 of them foraged, dodged monsters, and somehow didn't die, finally making it close to the forest exit. That night, she was cooking at their campfire and thinking about how Rihanna must be worried sick. She decided she would have to apologize big time when they got back. Just then, our hero showed up with a dead boar over his shoulder, like it was no big deal. Irina was shocked. How could this dude be out hunting when he was injured and coughing up blood? Frey said not to stress. The monster numbers were thinning out anyway. While he cut up the boar, she asked if he was planning to live in the forest forever, since that was just crazy. Our hero told her his answer hadn't changed, and lied that his illness made him too weak to escape if Frey, his own, fake self, came after him. Then, Irina promised she'd find a way to help, but he insisted he didn't want to drag her down, and doubted she could protect him when things got bad again. She looked really upset, but our guy just told her that, honestly, you get used to wild forest life after 3 days. She sighed, finally admitted, since she couldn't change his mind after 3 days, and gave him some fruit to snack on while dinner finished. Even though she didn't like leaving people who saved her all alone, she could tell he had his reasons. Frey picked up a weird-looking fruit and asked her if it was an ice dragon fruit, but she had no clue. He explained it was a special fruit he loved as a kid, and only a few people knew its secret name, since the only ones who know that name was himself and whoever he called them. But then, right in the middle of their peaceful moment, the whole forest started shaking. Irina freaked, thinking it was an earthquake. But our MC told her it was 1,000,000 times worse. He explained that this forest wasn't just a monster zone, it was basically the Demon King's garbage dump, full of failed experiments, modified beasts, and other nightmare fuel. He said he could handle most of it. But there was one exception. The Dark Golem. Even hordes of monsters couldn't kill that thing. And just then, the Dark Golem itself stomped toward them. Frey pulled out his sword, telling Irina he couldn't fight while keeping her safe. His energy was wild, and he pointed his blade at the monster, telling Irina to run for it while he bought time. But while he was trying to act all confident, you could tell our boy was wondering if he was really up for this. That's when the system popped up and let him know the Dark Golem had something called a 21% energy absorption rate. Our boy realized this was basically the final boss. Whoever this monster killed, it got even stronger, and eventually, the Demon King's army would come pick it up. Lucky for Frey, the monster wasn't superpowered yet, but it was still strong as hell, like fighting a whole army at once. To make it even worse, he couldn't use his star mana, or Irina would realize who he really was. The dark golem's eyes started glowing with a creepy light, bro, and suddenly it was scanning our MC and Irina like they were just bugs to squash. The monster wasn't playing around. It charged up and shot a giant energy blast right at them. Frey barely managed to throw up a shield in time, and covered Irina too, saving both of them from getting roasted. He told Irina she had to run, and that there was no time to argue, but, of course, our girl didn't want to leave him behind. She said there was no way she could just run while he stayed. The golem, pissed off its first attack didn't work, locked onto them for round 2. Frey, still acting as the masked hero, told the red girl that he knew he didn't have much life left, but he wanted to use whatever energy he had to help her escape, since she was the only one who could get revenge on Frey, for her own sake. That made her freeze up, and suddenly, she said she had misunderstood him as that scumbag. Our hero asked what she meant, but as fast as she could, she told him that she had just been talking with herself earlier. With a huge smile, she thanked him, and promised she'd never forget what he did. As she ran off into the woods, she yelled that she'd definitely take out that evil scumbag Frey for good. Our boy almost laughed out loud and thanked the heavens for his acting skills, getting so much better. Now it was just our MC and the dark golem, and this thing had a monster aura spilling out that could probably make your legs shake. But Frey was actually relieved. At least Irina was safe. He started charging up his sword, making it glow with that cold, bright energy, and decided, screw it, he was going all out. Meanwhile, the golem's inner system started blaring alarms because Irina, the main target, had gotten away. Our MC saw his chance. He dashed in, slashed right through one of the golem's legs, and sent the beast crashing to the ground. The golem's systems glitched out, warning of a balance system error, and it started looking for a way to fight back. Frey knew what he had to do, smash the monster's core, or else it would just get back up. But suddenly, the golem popped open a hidden missile launcher seriously. The demons never held back and started firing missiles at him like crazy. Our hero powered up his sword and went full anime hero, slicing every single missile out of the air with lightning-fast moves. Even as the golem kept firing, Frey had to stop and catch his breath. He realized, if he didn't finish this quick, he'd run out of gas and probably die for real. Just then, the golem system marked him as a Class 1 high-risk target and started a self-destruct countdown. Uh-oh, as it sucked in dark aura to blow everything up. If it happened, Frey knew he had seconds to act before he and Irina both got erased. Now, he has to stop it. Then he sprinted forward, leapt into the air, and slammed his powered-up sword straight into the monster's chest. Boom! A massive explosion rocked the whole forest. The golem lay twitching on the ground, and for a second, it looked like it was finally over. Our hero stood there, sword buried in the monster, but he was barely standing himself. His mask cracked and fell away, and he coughed up blood, just wondering if the thing was actually dead this time. Then, he spotted a reconnaissance crow flying overhead. Oh hell, if anyone came to check out this mess, they'd figure out everything, and Irina would definitely learn his real identity. He tried to move, but his body was totally shot. That's when he saw a tall, majestic wizard appear, dark magic swirling around her. When he looked closer, he realized it was Kanya, come to save the day. She told him to relax and leave everything to her. She helped him up and said there was a carriage nearby, promising she'd get him back to the dorms without anyone noticing. Frey finally let himself pass out in her arms, knowing he was safe. Back at the dorm, Kanya watched over him the whole time while he slept. When our boy finally woke up, she told him he'd been out for 2 whole days. He said he was fine, just dead tired, and asked what had gone down while he was out. She explained that the investigators had been all over the case after he vanished, and they found out that Ariane had used a teleportation scroll to try to save Irina. He was kind of shocked, but she pointed out that the scroll was supposed to be for recovery, not teleporting, and that the investigators were calling it an accident for now, as long as Ariane backed up the story. Our hero was suspicious. That kind of accident was way too perfect. Maybe the scroll was a fake. He told Kanya to check out where the scroll came from, but she let him know someone else was already investigating. Frey's next question was about Irina. Was she okay? She said Irina had just gotten back to the academy after showing up in a village nearby. That was a huge relief for our MC, since saving her was his whole goal. Then he asked what happened with their match. Kanya told him that he had actually been declared the winner the day before. He wasn't exactly happy about that, since losing would have made things simpler. Still, at least the system hadn't hit him with a penalty, even though his quest to defeat Irina was still on the pop-up. He figured he'd have to find some way to finish that later, once he was back in fighting shape. Then he thanked Kanya for all her help, but she cut him off and dropped one more bombshell. The Duke, his own dad, had helped the search and found his location. That got his full attention, since he knew his father was supposed to be traveling with Arya. Then, she explained that, as soon as his dad heard about the incident, he rushed to the magic tower to investigate the scroll's destination. He got the answer, but on the way back, the stress was too much. His father collapsed and still hadn't woken up yet. Now, Frey was so shocked he could barely talk. He asked her if he could just rest on her for a while. She said yes, and pulled him into a tight hug while he broke down and cried in her arms. Damn, our hero really needed that. A few days later, on the weekend, Kanya told our hero that he should really get some rest before heading back home. But our boy, he just brushed that off and said there was no way he could just chill while his dad was stuck in bed. He quickly threw on his coat, telling her he wouldn't be gone long anyway, and he still had to prep for his main quest. That's when she let him know that Irina was waiting outside his room. Fry just sighed and asked her to let her in. Then, the red girl came in, looking pretty tense. And right away, Frey turned on his classic jerk persona, asking if she really got saved by that Rihanna guy in the forest. Irina looked like she wanted to puke from how rude he was, but instead, she dropped to her knees and begged him to free Ariane. She promised she'd do whatever he wanted as long as he let her friend go. Inside, Frey was actually shocked. She came to talk instead of just coming for revenge, after all that happened in the forest. But he kept his villain mask on and ordered Kanya to get the carriage ready. Then he told Irina that he didn't have to listen to her, since she was basically his slave now. That hit Irina hard, but she was desperate. She promised she'd do absolutely anything. So, our MC decided to play along, and told her to finish what he couldn't do in the forest. She looked totally humiliated, but she agreed. Our MC, acting all cold, said he wasn't even interested in someone who just obeyed and walked out, scoring 300 villain points right there for being a total scumbag. He also told her to go clean up, saying maybe he'd help her if she did a really good job, and she just nodded. When he got outside, Kanya wanted to know what kind of task he gave Irina, but he just told her to chill and promised he'd explain everything on the way. As their carriage rolled out, Frey let her know that the red girl had begged for Ariane to be freed, and he'd do it when he got back, since Irina didn't try to bribe or trick him. Then he brought up Kanya's use of dark magic in the forest, asking if she was okay. She told him she was totally fine, since her spell didn't eat up any of her life force. Frey admitted that she was his only support. Right now, she was the reason he could still laugh in this messed up world. But after everything that happened, he realized he couldn't keep handling stuff alone. He told her he planned to lean on her strength more seriously from now on, and she instantly agreed, saying her life belonged to him anyway. He told her to seriously look after her health so she'd be ready if another disaster hit, like him passing out or getting teleported somewhere. Then he pulled out a special artifact from his system storage, telling her this item and her sister would both be important soon. When they finally reached the Starlight family mansion, things got heavy. Frey went straight to his dad's room, where his father Abraham was lying unconscious in bed. He held his old man's hand and quietly promised he'd be back after finishing everything. He just sat there for a while, not saying anything, and then he heard someone knock. Kanya stepped in, checking if he was sure about leaving so soon. Our hero told her there was no reason to stay. He called himself a useless son who only brought shame to the family, and if he hung around, people might get the wrong idea. The doctors had said his dad wasn't in real danger, so he figured things would go back to normal if he just handled his business. Then he suggested they go see her sister, Kadia. Kanya said sure. And when he asked how his sister was, she said she'd put her to sleep with a bit of magic, but warned he might upset her. Frey didn't care about that. He told Kanya to wait in his room, since his talk with the sister wouldn't take long. Inside Kadia's room, he saw Kanya's little sister napping away, and his first thought was that she looked just like her, even though her powers were the opposite. While Kanya risked her life using black magic, this kid, Kadia, could actually control and suppress black magic. While he, holding a special potion, the system told Frey it was the potion of potential, made to unlock someone's hidden abilities. Since Kadia was still a kid and her powers were only half awakened, he figured the potion would help her reach her full strength. He gently fed her the potion and smiled, thinking, according to the prophecy book, the effects would show up in about half a day. Right then, his other sister Arya stormed in and blasted him with a magic attack. Demanding to know what he did to Kadia, Frey fell to the corner of the room. Arya rushed over to check on Kadia, freaking out and asking if he'd given her something sketchy, like an aphrodisiac. She grabbed him by the shirt, yelling at him for acting indecent and blaming him for their father's condition. Honestly, that made our MC feel like trash. He didn't expect her to hate him so much. But he held his ground, slapped her hand away, and coldly said their dad collapsed on his own. He even asked what was wrong with using what belonged to him. Arya shot back that Kadia wasn't a thing for him to use. But he just got worse, reminding her that since their dad was out cold, he was the head of the family now, and everything belonged to him. He told Arya to get lost so he could keep enjoying himself. She broke down, crying, and begging him to just be her sweet big brother again, pounding her fists on his chest. But our boy just pushed her away, annoyed that her tears were ruining his mood. He said he'd stop messing with her for today, but warned her to stay out of his sight as much as possible. That was another 300 villain points for being a total jerk. But as he left the room and sat outside the door, he just felt empty, wondering how things ever got so messed up between him and his family. Damn, our hero was really feeling the pain now. Especially when he heard Arya's crying inside and asked why her big brother becomes so evil. Anyway, now, our boy was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, and realizing that, no matter how tough he acted, dealing with family still wrecked him inside. He'd been running this villain act for ages, but wow, nothing made him feel more dead than family drama. Still, he told himself not to get all sentimental. If anyone cared about him too much, the system would smack him with penalties later. Yeah, what a joke. Just then, Kanya popped in, all business. She told him the treatment they did had worked big time. She held out her hand, and a ball of dark magic floated above her palm. She explained that now she could properly control dark magic and do wild stuff, like making clones. To prove it, she created a clone of Frey right there. Our MC actually smiled for once, thinking about how much easier it would be to hide his identity now. Then, he told her to use her new skill to mess with the dorm residents' dreams and send some clones to spy on them. Kanya nodded and left to get it done. As soon as she was gone, our MC felt a huge weight lift off his shoulders. Finally, he could focus on his main quest without worrying about people sneaking up on him. With Irina and those other two girls hating his guts but under his thumb, he figured things would stay smooth unless some major chaos popped up. Then he remembered, Serena still hadn't come back from her trip. Kinda sus. Meanwhile, way out on the western continent, Serena was walking in a deep forest with her partner. The other girl pointed at the paper in Serena's hand, saying the writing looked like weird worms, the same kind she saw in those ancient ruins. She asked, could it be the reason why she suddenly wanted to check out the old hero's ruins from 1,000 years ago? Serena said she needed to take a shortcut, since there was no time to play around. As she read the paper, she said the person who wrote it thought just being chosen as a hero was enough, but guessed their descendants were facing even rougher times. The writer even guessed that Frey was probably on his first big quest right now, which she thought was pretty funny. She wondered out loud what kind of face Frey would make when he finally figured everything out and came home. Back at the mansion, our protagonist stepped into a carriage, waiting outside. Up in the window, Arya watched him leave, looking seriously stressed. After a moment, she just closed her curtains, hiding her face. As the carriage rolled away, Kanya asked if Frey was really okay with leaving without saying goodbye to Arya, but our hero just said that seeing her would only hurt both of them, so there was no point. She fell silent, clearly worried, and they sat like that as their trip started. A little while later, she broke the silence. She asked our hero about the first main quest, wanting to help out properly. Our MC realized it was smart to share the details, just in case things went sideways. He told her the quest was to catch whoever attacked the commoner's dorm. If he lost to Irina, he'd get blamed as the culprit. Pretty messed up. He stared at the system's pop-up, which said that beating Irina in the midterm would reward him with some kind of special device. But the system also said that skipping the quest wouldn't cause any real problems or give him a penalty. Frey remembered how, in his last life, he'd just caused the incident himself and turned himself in, using bribes to bail himself out. But that plan sucked, because he never found out who the real bad guy was. When she suggested maybe he should just stage the attack again, Our boy explained how someone else might show up if he went that route, which could really mess things up. Kanya agreed that the system was seriously sneaky. So, he said they should look for demons hiding in the commoner's dorm. Kanya was surprised, asking, why not just blame the nobles? Frey explained that demons probably used the chaos to sneak into the empire. He talked about how rotten the empire was, nobles being jerks, commoners getting stomped on, the perfect mess for demons to mess with everyone and take control. She finally got it. The demons could use the anger between nobles and commoners to blow up the whole empire. He added that if he failed the quest, the Demon King's cronies would probably move in for the kill. Instantly, she suggested they needed a way to spot demons, pretending to be humans. Our hero grinned and said it would be easy if they bought a certain tool. Later, in some sketchy back alley, Frey bought a bunch of stuff, acting all confident. Kanya held up a demon detector, asking if it actually worked. He explained it could only spot demons weaker than the Demon King and his top dogs, but the system window would point out the big bosses anyway. Kanya felt better, saying the system was finally being useful, and our boy agreed, for once. After that, he asked her, she had started checking up on Serena yet. Kanya said she'd already sent someone from the back alleys to dig around and planned to use her shadow clones too, but she admitted that if Serena really wanted to hide, she might never find her. Frey agreed, since Serena was the next boss of the Empire's whole spy and assassin network, the Moonlight family. Yeah, finding her would be a nightmare. While they were talking about their plan, Frey suddenly noticed a group of homeless kids nearby. He instantly recognized them as the same kids the succubus queen had once captured. The poor kids were whining about how they'd already blown through the gold coin they got from that masked dude, since adults would have stolen it anyway. Seeing them now, hungry and dirty, our MC realized he'd messed up. Then he told Kanya he wanted to build an orphanage, since he had more than enough cash to make it happen. But Kanya shot the idea down, saying he'd blow his villain cover right away. Frey just showed her the lifespan device he got after beating Irina, telling her he only had 4 or 5 years left anyway. He said he wanted to do something good for a change, help out these kids, and try to make up for his old sins. She blushed, clearly moved, and agreed to help, but only if they made the orphanage under her name instead. Now, our boy was standing by, watching as Kanya handed out bread to the hungry kids. For a second, our MC hoped maybe the world could chill out for once. But, of course, reality slapped him real quick. He remembered he had to show up at the palace ball as his dad's stand-in. He decided he'd just scare off anyone who tried to get close, since he already had a fiancé, like he needed any more drama. Meanwhile, over in Klana's room at the palace, things were not looking good. The Empress was there, going on about how the Moonlight family becoming the hero's partner would pose a threat to the palace, but she saw right through her. She knew the Empress only wanted to get her hands on the Starlight family's mountain of gold. Before leaving, the Empress dropped a bomb. She ordered her to marry Frey no matter what, and threatened to basically sell her off if she failed. Klana started shaking, thinking she'd rather just disappear than end up with Frey. Back at the academy, Kanya saw the demon detector in her hand and said, "There's no reaction for today." She wondered, if the demon just hiding, wouldn't it be fine for her to find out alone? Then, our hero said there's nothing to do for a while, so being with her is more relaxing. Hearing that, she's happy. Then she handed him a mail for the Emperor. Then, Frey starts reading it. But you know what? A second after he read it, he got slammed with the text inside. The Emperor wanted our MC to break up with his current fiancé and get engaged to Klana instead. He just froze. He was terrified. The letter even pulled out some ancient rule from 1,000 years ago, saying the first emperor and the old hero made a second vow about this. Kanya wondered why it all blew up so suddenly, but he remembered reading something about that second vow in some prophecy. He barely had time to process before 3 girls sprinted up to him, all fighting to be his +1 at the palace ball. Bro couldn't catch a break. While the girls argued over who'd look best at his side, he realized some snake had already started spreading rumors that his engagement was off. Someone was clearly stirring the pot. Luckily, Kanya stepped in and flashed the Emperor's letter, making the girls back off, even if they left looking mad. Our hero knew this rumor was going to bite him, but Kanya pointed out his main headache was the Klana engagement. She kept running into him, and every encounter reminded her that she had almost killed him. It was frustrating, but maybe this situation actually worked in her favor. Besides, she had been wondering how he was supposed to keep his distance when Serena returned. But our guy, he was actually pretty chill about it, since he needed a way to keep his distance anyway, especially when Serena came back around. Kanya said it'd be tough to dodge a royal fiancé, but he just took it as a new chance to push Klana away. Same time, over in the academy library, Klana was hunting for info but was coming up empty. After giving up on the book, she thought about sneaking into the palace's secret archives, but she'd need her dad's say-so, and she had no clue how to pull that off. She started thinking back to the Empire's start, 1,000 years ago, how Moonlight's family and Frey's family basically built the whole country together. The Starlights got all the glory for slaying the Demon Lord, while her crew did the dirty work in the shadows. The Emperor had given both families mad respect and let them do their own thing. But now Klana was stuck, wondering why the current Emperor wanted her engaged to our boy, and what that ancient vow was all about. That's when Frey just popped up out of nowhere, asking what had her so deep in thought, and he even called her wife to make her pissed. Klana instantly glared at him. Sure, he was just there to mess with her. She tried to leave. Then, he said, since now she might show a little friendliness because they would living together in the future. But she made it clear that they both caught up in the love quarrels of their ancestors from 1,000 years ago, after all. Then she asked if he really knew about the second vow. Then, our MC acted all casual, saying the first emperor had a thing for the first hero, and, after losing his place as royal consort, made the vow, hoping his descendants wouldn't get burned like he did. Klana said that sounded crazy, but then, he tossed her a folded note and said the real secret was coded inside. He turned to leave, telling her he'd see her at the ball. When she asked what he thought about the forced marriage, he just gave her the classic political answer, saying his opinion didn't matter and that the power he'd get by leading her family wasn't a big deal. But he did promise that if she behaved, he'd let her have some freedom. She just stayed quiet and looked sad. Our boy hoped she caught his hint, because the invite stated all shall not be valid unless all parties agree. He was sure that she'll notice and avoid the marriage. Far away, in a creepy forest at night, an old woman shuffled up to a cottage. Inside, Serena greeted her and used some weird nickname and teased her, but the old lady, actually the head of the magic tower, told her to cut it out, since she don't have many time to chatter. She said she wanted her memory wiped. The old crone was shocked, asking for her reason, since erasing a whole month was dangerous. She insisted, saying she was about to spill the hero's real identity and needed to forget before she slipped up, but the old lady had no idea what Serena meant. She also asked for a spell to force her to follow any order from Frey, handing over a letter and explaining that was the only way to stop herself from hurting him at the palace ball. Bro, that was seriously suspicious. Back at the palace, Klana was getting ready for the big event, checking herself out in the mirror while her maid hyped her up. After the maid left, she sighed, annoyed she still had 6 hours to break the encryption. While she was stressing over the secret code, she heard a cat meowing and spun around. She spotted the mystery cat slinking out of her room, and then she noticed a book it left behind. When she opened the book, whatever was inside blew her mind. Later that day, the big moment finally came. A herald shouted out Frey's arrival as he came into the ballroom with Kanya by his side. Our boy grabbed some wine and asked if the package got delivered. Kanya said it went straight to Klana. He started celebrating. He was sure he'd finally be free from this royal marriage nonsense. Kanya told him not to get too cocky, but Frey insisted he'd dropped enough hints for Klana to get out of it. And if things went south, he'd just reject her himself. Kanya said the only thing left was her own deal with the Empress, but he didn't seem worried. Suddenly, a blonde, noble girl with the craziest drill curls Frey had ever seen strutted over, all confidence. He instantly recognized her as Irina's old bully and asked what she wanted. She gave him some fake pity, saying he had the worst luck since Klana was the wildest princess to marry. She even listed all the reasons Klana would make his life hell. And our boy had to warn her to watch her mouth. The girl then introduced herself as an earl's daughter and told Frey how great she'd be as his wife, listing all her so-called amazing qualities. After her little sales pitch, she left with her head held high. Kanya was honestly shocked that girls like that really existed. He just said it was all because people were frustrated, and Kanya said her words will change anything, anyway. And our boy just agreed. Anyway, now, our boy didn't waste any time. He told Kanya it was time for his big appointment, and she just hoped it would go well. Frey strolled down the palace hall, walking right past Klana without a word, though she kept staring at him like she was trying to burn a hole through his head. Bro, that was awkward. Soon after, a fancy butler led him into some super girly room, saying she'd be there soon. Our MC asked about the room's designer, and of course, it was the Empress herself. Frey was just thinking how weird her taste was when the Empress finally swept in, acting all apologetic for making him wait. She went straight to business, asked how he felt about joining the royal family, claiming there was nothing in his way now. But our hero wasn't buying it. He said he was worried about backlash from the Moonlight family. From the Empress's sneaky reply, he figured she had just paid them off. All that family's old honor? Yeah, it was long gone. Now they only cared about gold. Now, he flat out told her the whole arranged marriage thing was just for her own profit, and that it was, honestly, kind of ridiculous. But the Empress just rambled on about how royalty did things, like it was some kind of badge of honor to be a total weirdo. He didn't feel like arguing, so he pulled out a contract. Yeah, a real, official one, offering a massive 6 million gold donation in exchange for royal status. The Empress looked it over, noticed the huge reward, and Frey asked if she'd just sign it already. But then she spotted a sneaky clause. She couldn't have him arrested for anything except treason. Our MC said that once he married in, he'd be doing all their dirty work, just like handling Her Majesty's political enemies, collecting funds, and the like. So, he needed protection. The Empress was clearly impressed by his guts. But then she noticed another clause. If the engagement broke, the donation got cancelled. Our MC played it cool, saying it was just a safety move, and the Empress laughed like she'd just watched the best prank ever, totally sure Klana wouldn't dare betray them. She agreed on the deal, acting like she'd just scored big. After that, he got up to leave, and the Empress said she'd handle everything else. Walking out, our MC thought about how greed could wreck a country, but honestly, he was just pumped. His plan had worked. But inside, he thought that a nation run by people blinded by greed is doomed to fall into ruin. With this, playing as a villain a bit more tolerable. But of course, nothing's ever that simple. Klana popped up out of nowhere, icy as ever, and said she bet he'd just finished selling her off. Frey wondered what she was doing there, and made up some story about his meeting. But she wasn't buying any of it. She told him to quit living in his little fantasy world, and that nothing would go like he hoped. She stormed off, but our boy was grinning inside. Everything was going exactly as he wanted. He couldn't wait to watch her next move, from the best seat in the house. It seems he found easy way to avoid the marriage. Later, while the other rich kids danced around the ballroom pretending to be elegant, Frey double-checked the Emperor's seal on his contract with the Empress. He figured with that, no one would ever suspect a thing. Kanya stood nearby, watching everyone, then pointed out that Serena still hadn't shown up. Our boy confirmed it. Serena was a no-show, and guessed the Moonlight family must have bailed on the ball altogether. Kanya agreed, saying the Moonlight family's head almost never bothered with these things. So, with the engagement off, Serena would have no reason to show. Frey admitted he was kind of expecting Serena to sneak in and try to end him, but it looked like she was just watching him from the shadows instead. Kanya said they should still be careful, and our MC agreed. Suddenly, horns blared, and the herald shouted out the son of Emperor's arrival. Emperor Lycan strutted into the ballroom with Empress Raimi, and right away he announced the engagement between Klana and Frey. But he just feels bored, so he handed the mic to Emperor Lycan, who called Frey and Klana up to the front. Now, everyone was staring at them. The Emperor asked if Frey agreed to the engagement. Our hero didn't hesitate. He dropped to one knee and basically proposed, right then and there. But then she threw the question at Klana, and that's when the whole room exploded. She straight up refused, saying she had a choice. She revealed a secret clause in the second vow that said both parties had to agree or the marriage couldn't happen. Then she turned to her dad for backup, but he just looked shocked. The Emperor, seeing all this wild drama, said he thought both Frey and Klana had already agreed before the ball. Klana explained she hadn't even known about her right to refuse until now. Emperor Lycan realized the Empress had tried to trick everyone, but he couldn't ignore the old rule. So he announced the marriage was cancelled, no mutual consent, no wedding. He looked at Frey and asked if he was okay with it. Our boy put on his best actor face, acting disappointed but totally chill, and agreed. The Emperor thanked him for being reasonable, apologized to everyone, and told them to just enjoy the party. Not long after, the Empress cornered Klana and tried to threaten her like before, saying she'd sell her off now that the marriage had failed. But Klana didn't back down, saying if the Empress tried anything, she'd expose all of her dirty secrets. Before things could get even spicier, Frey walked over, completely act hurt, and told the Empress he was taking his 6 million gold donation back. She tried to stop him, But our hero made it clear he was also keeping his immunity clause from their deal. At that point, the Empress realized she'd been totally played and swore she'd get revenge. But our MC just ignored her and walked away. While he was enjoying his little victory, he suddenly bumped into that drill-haired noble girl from earlier, Isabel. She tried to pitch herself as his next fiancée, but he didn't even let her finish. He just told her to get lost, since she's annoying and had terrible personality. Off. That was hard. The girl couldn't believe it and started arguing, but he didn't care, just walked away while she fumed behind him. Man, our MC had just pulled off the greatest escape from royal engagement ever. Just then, he walked towards Kanya and he apologized for making her wait, but she just handed him a letter, looking way more stressed than usual. That had to mean something bad. Kanya said Serena dropped it off for him, along with a message, as if that wasn't a red flag already. So our boy opened the letter, expecting some drama, and, damn, Serena delivered. She said he had to meet her in the courtyard right now, and if he didn't, she'd literally kill him. Bro, talk about a crazy ex. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in demon territory, the demon lord was busy handing some ugly demon a shiny pendant that hid its true form. She grinned at her system window, all hyped up to see how the so-called hero would handle his first main quest. Honestly, she looked way too excited. Back in the palace, Frey headed straight to the courtyard, not even pretending to be chill. He found Serena waiting, acting all relaxed. But our MC just wanted to get to the point, asked what she wanted, and reminded her that they weren't engaged anymore. As she walked closer, he started sweating bullets, but Serena just explained why. She had to go all psycho threats on him. She figured he was way too stubborn and wouldn't show up unless she made it dramatic. Now that they were just strangers, she said she wanted to help him. Only, she claimed, she didn't actually remember why. Our boy confused, but she didn't let him have another words, which makes him angry, because talking to her tests his patience a lot. She continued that she knows that they engagement were annual from the letter she found, but except that she said she didn't remember anything. Then, our boy was like, what the hell did that mean? Serena kept teasing him for a bit, but finally spilled it. She'd used magic to wipe out her own memories from the last month. She even got the master of the magic tower to help with the memory wipe. Plus, she mentioned she was under some crazy, absolute obedience spell that forced her to listen to every order he gave. That news almost knocked him over. He demanded to know why she'd do something so wild. Serena guessed maybe it was to help him, but she wasn't sure, since she erased any memory related to him, including whatever she read at those ancient ruins. Our boy's mind was spinning. Those ruins held the hero's secrets, all written in a language only he should know. If Serena managed to read them, then erased it all to protect him, that was some genius-level risk. Frey realized she must have wiped her memories just to stop him from getting hit with some penalty by the system. Man, Serena really knew how to cover all the bases. She kept saying she was doing everything possible to avoid remembering anything that could put him in danger. He finally got the whole picture, and, just to be sure, asked her why she was so set on helping him. Serena just smiled and dropped the same old bomb. She said she loved him, plain and simple. That left our boy completely speechless, and Serena just strolled away, telling him to call if he ever needed backup. Yeah, our MC realized he got totally played, but he wasn't mad. He just decided to roll with it. If she and her whole family were now basically on his side, plus, he still had legal immunity from that royal contract, Frey figured he could use all those perks to clear his first big quest without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, the master of the magic tower was wandering through the city, totally annoyed that her apprentice made her run errands. Suddenly, a little kid called Glare popped up and offered her some bread. The old hag just tried to shoo her away, but then tossed her a gold coin for the effort. Glare was super thankful and chirpy, but the old woman wasn't interested, until Glare claimed she could use magic. The tower master didn't believe her for a second, since the kid wasn't giving off even a whiff of mana. But then she let loose with a burst of real magic, and the old woman straight up froze. She couldn't believe some random kid had that much power. Next thing he knew, the master teleported both of them to some forest, scaring the daylight out of her. The old lady asked her name, and when she introduced herself, the master just announced she was now her apprentice. No way that kid saw it coming. Back in the Demon Lord's palace, things weren't much better. The Demon Lord was cranky about being stuck in hiding from some penalty, but then a demonic crow arrived. The Demon Lord told it she was ready to make some big moves, mainly using the chaos of a dorm attack to sneak her army into the Empire. She told the crow to pick an attacker with heavy, negative vibes, since black magic loved that stuff. The crow agreed and took off with a demon item, looking for the perfect human puppet. She said, "Humans with strong negative emotions is easier to control." Back at the academy, Frey was chilling in his room when Kanya stopped by and asked what he was up to. Our hero told her he was making plans, getting ready for the big attack and everything that would follow. Kanya figured he meant the commoner dorm incident and was already worried about the aftermath. But he wasn't bothered. He had legal immunity and was ready to drop fake rumors, earn more villain points, and focus on finding the real culprit. Kanya, ever the worrier, asked what would happen if they couldn't catch the bad guy. Our MC said that was impossible. The demon detector he had ignored all disguises and magic. Nothing could trick it, except the system itself, and he was the only hero with access to that. Right as she was finally calming down, Serena busted into the room, like she owned the place. Kanya got instantly defensive, demanding to know why Serena was there, without asking. Serena just announced she didn't need permission to visit her fiancé. Frey quickly pointed out the engagement was off, but Serena totally ignored him and started searching the room for secrets. Our poor guy just wanted to know why she showed up, when he didn't even call for her. But she fired right back, asking why Kanya was there. Kanya announced she was Frey's butler. Serena narrowed her eyes and asked if Kanya planned to hurt him. But Kanya's chill reply made it clear she was truly on Frey's side. Serena seemed satisfied. Then, he thanked Serena for the reassurance and said he needed her help, but first ordered her not to be certain about anything related to him. Thanks to the obedience spell, Serena meekly agreed. Our MC hoped that would stop him from getting system penalties, since the system hated when someone got too close to his secrets. Only absolute certainty triggered the punishment, like when Kanya figured everything out. Moving on. Our boy handed Serena a map of the area around the commoner dorm and gave her the demon detector. He explained how it worked and warned her that demons were planning to attack that spot. He ordered her to position her family's people for surveillance and defense. Serena nodded and asked why he was suddenly doing good deeds. But Frey just barked that it was an order and told her not to dig further. The obedience spell kicked in again, and Serena accepted everything without a word. She finished by dropping another love confession and dipped out, leaving Frey totally speechless again. Kanya just shook her head at Serena's weirdness. Our boy agreed, but admitted that Serena was insanely talented, and there was nothing to do but wait for her next update. Our MC had a powerful, unpredictable ally now. He just had to make sure she didn't break his brain in the process. Somewhere, across the city, the Moonlight family's people were already on the move, staking out the commoner's dorm, just like Serena ordered. Serena checked the demon detector. Nothing yet, but her assistant told her they had even sent in demon experts for backup. She acted all cool, trusting her team, and the assistant headed out to take her own spot. She decided she'd better check the marked locations on Frey's map herself. But, bro, she didn't know she was being watched. Up above, that nasty demonic crow was spying on her, trying to see if she was the right target for some evil plan. The crow was like, "Nah, this chick's got no bad vibes, so she's not the one." The demon lord wanted someone angry and messed up, someone who could cast some serious dark magic. Just then, the crow spotted unlucky Isabel wandering around, still totally messed up after Frey rejected her. The crow wasted no time. Dove in, hijacked Isabel's mind, and gave her one job. Go, attack the commoner's dorm. Isabel, now basically a puppet, just nodded and started walking. No questions asked. Yeah, things were about to get spicy. The next morning, our hero was chilling in his room when Kanya showed up with coffee. He took a sip and said it actually felt peaceful for once. Way better than all the crazy drama lately. Kanya agreed, saying it had been chaos after chaos for too long. So, our boy, being smooth for once, asked if she wanted to go out with him, buy some clothes, have a meal, just to say sorry for all the crap he put her through. That caught Kanya way off guard. She started mumbling, wondering if he was asking her on a date or what. But, before Frey could even tell her his plans, Serena burst through the door, out of breath, and totally panicked. Serena dropped the news. Some kind of crazy magic energy was coming from the commoner's dorm. Frey nearly spit out his coffee hearing that. He told Kanya their outing was on hold. No way they could chill with this going on. Kanya didn't complain, and the three of them raced straight for the dorm. When they got there, the whole place just reeked of creepy magic. That's when the system window popped up, giving Frey a new quest. stop the attack, and catch the culprit. If he won, he'd get a hero weapon upgrade. If he failed, his already short life would get even shorter. No pressure, right? Looking around, Frey muttered that the magic power was on another level. Serena said that's why she called her guards off, before the area was way too dangerous now. Frey asked for more info, so Serena explained that both the guards and the demon detector didn't find a thing at first. But this morning, evil magic just started pouring out from inside. Frey started suspecting maybe a noble student snuck into the dorm. Serena wanted to know why he thought that, and our MC started blaming himself. He realized he'd forgotten to warn Serena that the culprit could be a noble, which might be why the detector failed. But there was no time for regret right now. Kanya wanted to investigate carefully, but Frey cut her off, saying there was no time they had to move, like, now. He pulled out the Stone of Dominion, showing it off as their secret weapon. Kanya checked it, confirming it was legit, and Frey explained he brought it just in case things got wild. The system window showed info about the stone, and Frey was already thinking about how he could use it for his own shady plans, while catching the bad guy. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly yanked Kanya and Serena into the bushes with him. Good timing, too, because Irina, Klana, and Felrosh showed up around the corner. Serena wanted to know what the hell he was doing, but Frey just told her to zip it and stay down. The other girls walked right toward the dorm, looking ready for war. Felrosh said she could feel something evil inside, and Irina mentioned she noticed it when visiting Ariane. Irina asked for backup to save everyone, and both Klana and Felrosh agreed. Our boy, watching all this, wasn't shocked to see Irina. She lived here, but he had no clue why the other two were tagging along. He realized these three girls must have teamed up behind his back, making things even messier. Serena started demanding answers again, but Frey just ordered Kanya to put up a recognition blocking spell to keep people out. Serena got annoyed and said she could do that too, then immediately cast her own spell to help. She asked what Frey's plan was, but our boy just kept it to himself. He was planning to find the attacker, take over their mind with the Stone of Dominion, reveal himself as the evil mastermind for mad villain points, and then use his legal immunity and fat stacks of cash to clean up the mess. Instead of explaining all that, he just told Serena to follow orders and stop overthinking. With everyone in position, they snuck into the creepy dorm. Right away, Kanya shouted a warning, and Frey barely had time to react before a monster tried to flatten him. Serena jumped in, smacked the monster away, and then blasted it through a wall. More monsters crawled out, but Serena just wiped the floor with them. She was a total beast, and Frey was honestly thankful she was on his side, because if she's an enemy, she'd be a real nightmare to deal with. In the middle of all this, he noticed some weird hexagram graffiti glowing with a nasty, dark aura. Serena asked what that creepy feeling was, but before Frey could answer, Kanya called him over to another room. Inside, they found the dorm manager and a maid, both knocked out cold. Kanya took a look and said it seemed like magic sleep. Frey told her to dig into their minds, but Kanya said something was blocking her from getting in. That got Frey's attention. Nobody was supposed to be able to beat Kanya at mind magic. Not the Magic Tower Master, not Felrachich, not even the Demon Lord's best people. Our hero started thinking real hard, and a bad feeling crawled up his spine. If Kanya was blocked like this, maybe the Demon Lord himself was involved. Now Frey was seriously worried this little dorm crisis just turned into something much bigger than he expected. Right after our boy threw out the theory that maybe the Demon Lord was involved, Kanya totally lost it and started freaking out about how doomed they were. But our hero quickly calmed her down, saying that he didn't mean the Demon Lord herself was here, just that someone up high must be using her power. He wondered aloud if the Demon Lord would really bother messing with a commoner's dorm. After thinking for a second, he decided it really didn't matter. There was a problem in front of them, and he'd just deal with it. No time to think more, because Serena came running up, panting hard, looking like she just sprinted through a monster nest. She gave Frey the report. Monsters were everywhere in the dorm, but get this, nobody was hurt yet. Serena figured that meant whoever was behind this mess was controlling the monsters, not just sending them out to kill. She also pointed out that the weird hexagram graffiti was all over every floor, not just one. That meant, she said, the whole building was inside a magic circle. She analyzed if a magic circle, using living humans, in the Demon Lord's army, that can only mean there was a sacrificial magic circle. That bombshell nearly knocked Frey out right there. Our MC's mind flashed back to the Book of Prophecies he'd read about a sacrificial magic circle that used living people as fuel. He hated that he couldn't remember the details, but he definitely recognized the graffiti. It was like a side dish to the real sacrificial ritual. He thought about the succubus queen incident from before and guessed there had to be a main magic circle somewhere to activate it all. After doing some super fast villain math in his head, Frey realized the big bad must be on the top floor with the activation circle. He didn't waste a second. He told the girls he was going to catch the culprit and break the magic circle before anybody inside got turned into demon breakfast. Meanwhile, up on the top floor, Isabel was standing right in the center of the magic circle, pumping out some truly evil magic. The demonic crow watched her and thought she made the perfect puppet. She got the job done fast, probably because she was so full of hate. The crow figured the whole spell would finish in about an hour, but Frey busted in and, looking at Isabel, immediately understood why the crow picked her. Her resentment was basically a magical power-up for evil plans. While muttering about how he was always everyone's target, Frey launched a blast of magic right at Isabel and the crow. But, bad luck, his attack did nothing. The crow just told him straight up that it wasn't going to be easy. As soon as the crow saw that Frey recognized it for what it really was, it dropped all the innocent act and ordered Isabel to deal with Frey. Just as Isabel was about to go wild, Serena dove in and blocked her. Kanya joined the fight too. They agreed. Serena and Kanya would deal with Isabel, while Frey handled the creepy bird. Our hero just hoped he wouldn't get jumped by more demon minions. Reading the room, the crow realized it couldn't win a head-on fight and suddenly tried to hijack Frey's brain, but that was exactly what our MC wanted. He whipped out the Stone of Dominion like a pro and announced that this fight was already over. The crow saw the stone, realized it was in deep trouble, but it was too late. Its eyes went blank and it collapsed on the spot. At the same moment, Isabel dropped to the ground too, showing that the mind control spell was broken. Kanya and Serena both let out huge sighs of relief and quietly admitted that even those simple attacks from Isabel were crazy strong. But, of course, things never stayed easy for our boy. Before he could even start breaking the magic circle, Irina, Klana, and Felroche stormed onto the top floor. They immediately wanted to know what Frey was doing there. Klana guessed he was the villain behind everything, and the others backed her up. Frey just stood there, thinking that things had been going way too smoothly. So, of course, some new problem had to pop up, right when he didn't need it. Klana wasn't done. She demanded to know why Kanya and Serena were there too. Kanya panicked. She couldn't defend Frey without giving away too much. To avoid looking suspicious, Kanya suddenly changed sides and pretended to join the other girls. Serena tried to help Frey out, but she weirdly forgot the reason he was there at all, her mind fuzzing over the details. Frey saw the girls getting more and more confused and realized if he didn't shake things up quick, they'd start asking all the wrong questions. He glanced at his system quest and saw that he could still finish the mission if he escaped and turned himself in later. But he was way more worried about that sacrificial circle. One wrong move, and the whole dorm might explode. Frey figured he was the only one who could break the circle safely. Too bad the Stone of Dominion only worked once per day, so he couldn't hypnotize anyone else. Instead, he decided to go full psycho and activated its berserk mode. Instantly, a weird, menacing energy flooded the whole building. The girls all sensed something was off and asked what the hell he was doing. Irina, always the quick one, realized what was up and yelled that Frey was calling the monsters over. At that exact moment, the crow landed on Frey's head. He played along, pretending he'd been totally taken over. The monsters started swarming toward them, and our MC ramped up his villain act, raising his head and ordering the girls to become sacrifices for the demon lord. Klana shouted that Frey was finally showing his true colors, but Kanya, being a real one, pointed out that he was acting way too simple and direct for his usual style. Inside, Frey was seriously grateful for the help. The crow on his head, playing its part, announced that Frey was now completely under its control. Kanya immediately agreed, insisting everyone needed to snap him out of it. Felroche said she could feel the evil energy pouring off him. But Klana said they could argue about who was the villain later. Right now, they needed to take Frey down. Frey just watched them, happy the girls were too busy to stop him, as he secretly got to work, breaking the magic circle behind their backs. Our MC was pulling off the villain act of the century, just another day in his insane life. Right away, the monsters started swarming the group, way more than before. Klana got fed up and suggested that they forget about the magic circle and just jump Frey. But Kanya, who was actually using her brain, shut her down fast, saying that the magic circle could blow them all up if they messed with it without thinking. Klana then switched tactics, saying maybe they should just smash the circle directly, but Irina shot that down too. She warned everyone that a careless attack could make things a whole lot worse. Out of options, Klana told Felrocic they should try holding Frey down together while the others handled the monsters. The two rushed at him. Our MC wasn't having any of it. He dodged Klana's magic blasts, blocked Felrocic's punch, and even sent Felrocic sliding back like a total boss. Frey pointed out, very loudly, that they had better not touch the magic circle, since doing it wrong could make it explode. But even though he was the only one who knew exactly how to deal with it, he needed the others to keep firing at him from a distance, if he wanted to break it safely. Suddenly, a magic attack came flying in at just the right angle, helping Frey break part of the circle without anyone noticing. He looked and saw Serena was the one behind it. He thought it was kind of weak for her, but then Serena whispered that she was just pretending and would play along. Frey realized Serena had figured out he was still sane and understood the plan, which made him respect her quick thinking. He decided to keep up the villain act, since Serena had made things easier for him. While the girls kept blasting him with magic, our boy concentrated on the best way to erase the magic circle safely. Apparently, he had to use opposite magic types to cancel out the demon attributes before triggering the spell. After a bunch of attacks back and forth, he finally achieved his goal. He felt relieved, knowing the circle would now fade away on its own once he activated it. Getting cocky, Frey started taunting the girls, acting like the crow was in control. After most of the monsters were taken out, Klana jumped in with the others and focused their fire on Frey. Then Serena comes in and said that most of the monsters are taken care of. She'll assist them. Felrosh then said she needs time to recover. Irina, meanwhile, hung back and watched, looking super nervous and lost. A moment later, Frey suddenly puked blood and dropped to his knees, while the crow flopped off his head. Klana and Felrocic, seeing him down, got closer. Felrocic was suspicious, saying they should be careful. But Klana bragged that close combat was her thing, and she was faster than anybody. She charged up a magic shot to finish the job. Inside, Frey knew the next spell would wreck him for days, but he decided to trust Kanya to handle whatever came next. While Klana was still surprised, Frey activated the magic circle and yelled about everyone becoming demon lord sacrifices. Klana tried to snap him out of it, but he just kept going. The magic circle lit up with a blinding light, but instead of blowing everyone up, nothing happened. Frey passed out, and the girls all looked around, still alive and totally confused. Serena quickly checked the area and said the spell must have failed and gone out of control. Kanya, thinking to herself, thanked Frey for his effort and decided to take over. She rushed to Frey's side, asked if he was okay, and told the others he had fainted from the failed spell. She suggested they tie him up before he woke up. Felrocic and Klana, still shaky, admitted they thought they were goners but wondered aloud why the spell failed, tossing around guesses. Irina was off to the side, clearly disturbed, watching the scene, while Kanya started making plans to get Frey to a hospital. Suddenly, Serena hugged the unconscious Frey, begging him to wake up. At that moment, the girls felt a cold shiver go down their spines. Kanya whispered, worried, wondering if someone else was watching. While everyone was distracted, Irina's mind drifted back to the gray forest and her encounter with Rihanna, the masked savior. She remembered how Rihanna never showed his face and talked about being sick, and also how he somehow knew about the ice dragon fruit, which she thought only she and Frey knew about. Back then, she'd wondered if Rihanna was actually Frey, but dismissed it since Frey would never help her. Now, though, watching Frey's fighting style and seeing the magic circle getting weaker every time he moved, she started connecting the dots. When the magic circle went off, but nobody got hurt, it hit her. Frey must have used his own magic to cancel out the spell and save everyone. She realized nobody else noticed because they were too busy panicking. Irina thought to herself that Frey must have stopped the magic circle on purpose, but she couldn't figure out why. He'd risk everything to help. She guessed again that maybe he really was Rihanna, but wondered why he hid the truth from her. Suddenly, Serena's scream snapped Irina out of her thoughts, making her realize Frey was coughing up blood, far away. In the Demon Lord's castle, the Demon Lord noticed the crow had stopped responding. A system window popped up with a big fat "quest failed." The penalty screen flashed, making it clear the Demon Lord couldn't leave the castle now. Annoyed, she grumbled that some unknown force was making her play by the system's rules, and even forcing her to personally fight the hero. She complained that her movements were being blocked, not the hero's. The system, probably rolling its eyes, coldly told her that if she had no restrictions, the hero would be doomed from the start. The demon lord kept whining, so the system finally unlocked a new cheat. She could create a duplicate, basically a weaker puppet, to move around outside while her real body stayed locked up. The system explained the duplicate would only have about 10% of her power each day. The demon lord didn't care, though, saying she'd crush the hero anyway. She activated the ability, and her puppet body walked out of the castle for the first time. Looking at the outside world, the demon lord got hyped, laughing that, this time, the hero was totally finished. Inside Frey's head, things were getting weird. His memories started breaking apart, and he realized his thoughts were fading, like he was about to disappear. But suddenly, boom, he woke up in the middle of a forest. Dude was confused, since he clearly remembered being in the commoner's dorm before this. Looking around, our MC noticed the place felt oddly familiar, like the spot where he once met Felroche. He took a second to think about it, and guessed that maybe he got thrown into another one of his old memories. He just hoped nothing crazy would happen this time. Out of nowhere, he heard a little kid calling for their mom. So, of course, he had to check it out. And there it was, his tiny, younger self, lost and calling out. Right away, Frey remembered the time he and his mom got stuck in the mountains behind the mansion. But strangely, his mom was missing in this memory. While he was trying to figure things out, he spotted something way worse. A giant werewolf lurking in the shadows, definitely looking for lunch. Frey couldn't remember ever running into a monster like that as a kid. The beast sneaked up behind his younger self, who was still busy yelling for his mom, and was about to pounce. Before Frey could even freak out, a flame spell shot out and nailed the werewolf, scaring it off. Little Frey finally looked around and realized he was about to be monster food. Then, Irina popped out of the woods, saying she had finally tracked him down and asked what he was doing out here. Little Frey ran over and hugged her, so relieved to be saved. Irina, being her usual tsundere self, got all flustered and started complaining about how she totally hated nobles. So, he better not get any ideas. They started bickering like kids do. Older Frey watched the whole thing from the shadows and was super confused. He thought to himself that he never met Irina in the forest like this. He actually met her later, when she was working as a bounty hunter. Back in the day, he and his mom got lost in the mountains, but there was no Irina and definitely no werewolf. His dad showed up, found them, and they all went home safe. This was starting to feel just like when his memories about Felroche didn't add up. It was obvious something was messing with his head, and he was not a fan. His brain hurt just thinking about what was real and what was fake. Little Irina told Frey he should come with her so she could cash in her reward from the Duke, but Frey said his mom told him not to leave this spot. Irina looked kind of annoyed, but explained that Frey's mom was probably already home with his dad, who was looking for him right now. Realizing his mom was safe, little Frey agreed to follow Irina, even though the older Frey was still scratching his head about what the hell was going on. As they strolled through the forest at night, Irina found out that Frey had been stuck out there for 3 hours. She was kind of amazed he managed to survive, with so many beasts around. But something about the timeline felt off to her. She remembered getting the request to find him 2 days ago. When Frey asked for more details, she just brushed him off, telling him it was none of his business. Little Frey tried to remember how he got separated, thinking maybe it was during a game of hide-and-seek with his mom, but nothing was clear. Annoyed, Irina suggested maybe his mom messed with his memories to keep him from wandering. Suddenly, a wolf howl echoed nearby, and little Frey almost lost it. But Irina promised she could take on a whole pack by herself. Too bad for them. A massive werewolf, even bigger than before, stepped right into their path. Irina realized immediately it wasn't the same one she fried earlier. Little Frey started trembling and asked what they should do now. But Irina just told him to run for it. But our boy wasn't having any of that coward stuff. When the werewolf grabbed Irina, like she was a bag of chips, and started squeezing, little Frey refused to bail. He charged at the monster, smacking it, and yelling that he wasn't leaving his friend behind. Irina, crushed but still mouthy, shouted at him to save himself. But the werewolf turned to Frey and sniffed him over. The kid froze, scared out of his mind, but tried to mentally prepare for a fight. Watching from the side, older Frey noticed something was off. The monster didn't attack, and the more he stared, the more familiar it felt, even though he had no reason to know any werewolves. Just as he tried to remember what was going on, his head started pounding. Suddenly, Irina blasted the werewolf with a flame ball, which only pissed it off. The beast lashed out, kicking little Frey so hard he flew into a tree. Irina yelled in panic, but the monster just started pummeling her. Bruised and battered, Irina wondered if she was going to die here. Out of nowhere, a huge, star-shaped magic attack slammed into the creature's head, making it bleed. Irina looked up and saw Frey, barely standing, gripping a stick and telling her to hang on. He was going to save her, no matter what. Frey jumped at the monster, and when the werewolf tried to hit him, it suddenly hesitated, like it couldn't bring itself to attack. In that weird moment, Frey stabbed the monster in the torso, and it finally dropped to the ground, bleeding out. Irina, still stunned, got up and demanded to know why Frey didn't bust out that kind of power sooner. Before he could answer, the poor kid totally passed out. He'd used up everything he had. Irina freaked out, trying to wake him up. Meanwhile, the older Frey, watching all this mess, was more confused than ever. He couldn't figure out why the werewolf stopped fighting, or how that attack, which shouldn't have worked, actually landed. He guessed the only reason was because the monster lost the will to fight, and if that was true, then this beast must have known him somehow. The whole memory faded out, darkness started closing in, and Frey couldn't help but feel seriously worried about what came next. A week later, Klana was hanging out in her dorm, looking extra annoyed about our hero. She found Felrosh and asked if there was any news on him, but Felrosh just shrugged and said the guy was still out cold, even though nothing seemed wrong with his body. That made Klana even more suspicious, so she told Felrosh that, for now, all they could do was start spreading rumors that Frey was the one behind the big incident. Felrosh didn't seem too sure, since they weren't even sure if that was true, but Klana didn't care. She said they couldn't worry about being careful if they wanted to take Frey down. Now was their chance while he was still unconscious. Felrosh wanted to agree, but she mumbled that a saint probably shouldn't go around telling lies. Klana, totally done with waiting, said they had to push forward and make everyone suspicious of Frey, even without real proof. After all, he broke into the dorm, and they saw him helping the Demon King's army. So Klana planned to use all of that to make people think Frey had some secret connection to the Demon King. Felrosh, who honestly wasn't following half of Klana's big plan, just nodded and decided to let Klana lead the way. Suddenly, a guard came running up and told them Isabel had finally woken up. Klana jumped at the chance, saying they had to go talk to her and find out why she'd been at the commoner's dorm. She figured that info could totally help their case against Frey. She left the rest of the work to the guard and took off with Felrosh at her side. But right after they left, things got way creepier. The Demon King herself showed up, asking the guard if she could come inside. When the guard tried to say no, the Demon King just used magic to force him to say yes. She walked right in, went straight over to her dead crow, and started using magic to track down whoever had really taken her out. She focused, trying to see through the crow's memories and, bro. She saw Frey's face clear as day. That was it. The Demon King now knew exactly who the hero was. She blasted the bird away with magic and started preparing a new spell, thinking that, now that she had her target, all she had to do was crush him. No pressure or anything. Fast forward 3 months, and our boy Frey was still knocked out. Serena was freaking out, asking Kanya if she knew what was going on. Serena was sure Kanya was hiding something about Frey's health, maybe some secret illness. Kanya played dumb, which only made Serena angrier, so she promised she'd find out the truth her own way. Just then, Irina walked in, supposedly to clean the place. Serena told her to go away since they were in the middle of something serious, but Irina refused and explained she had taken some kind of crazy death pact. If she didn't finish her cleaning on time, she was literally toast. Serena realized there was no winning with this girl, so she dragged Kanya outside to keep arguing. The second Irina was alone, she decided to snoop around and see if she could figure out what was up with Frey. But then, surprise, Frey started coughing and opened his eyes. Irina freaked out, checking if he was really awake. He just blinked at her, totally confused, and asked why she was there and how long he'd been out. Irina, looking kind of guilty, told him he'd been asleep for almost 3 months. That blew our boy's mind. He swore it felt like no time at all. He checked his system and, ouch, saw that he'd taken a serious penalty. Apparently, his lifespan had dropped big time. Now he was sweating, wondering who the hell had found out his secret. He started thinking about the other heroines. Serena should have forgotten everything, so it couldn't have been her. But then, he remembered he had shown off his powers right in front of Irina, both in the forest and back, when they fought monsters. Damn, our MC realized he'd messed up, and Irina must have figured out who he really was. Irina, looking super nervous, said she'd go get a doctor. Frey watched her go, debating if he should ask her straight up what she knew. But then he decided that could backfire if he was wrong. So he chose to just keep an eye on her for now. Soon enough, the girls heard the news and rushed in. Kanya and Serena burst into the room to check on him. Frey told them both to leave because he wanted to talk to Kanya alone. Serena made a big fuss, but Irina just awkwardly followed her out, letting the door slam behind them. When they were finally alone, Frey got right to the point and asked Kanya if she knew who had figured out his secret. Kanya shook her head and said everyone was acting normal. Frey told her he suspected Irina, explaining that she had seen him fight in the forest, and even though he'd tried to hide his usual style, it probably still showed. Kanya promised she'd look into it. Before she left, Frey asked her to make him something to eat since he was starving, and Kanya agreed, no complaints this time. Right after that, his system window popped up, telling him flat out, an enemy had discovered his true identity and had gained a special advantage because of it. That made Frey panic for a second, remembering how every mission had been getting more and more brutal. But then, he forced himself to chill out. He thought about how the system and the heroines never played fair, and honestly, trying to trick them all was way harder than he thought it'd be. He glanced at the cat plushie and realized, no matter how hard he avoided the girls, he always ended up getting pulled into their mess anyway. At least Kanya was still on his side. If not for her, he'd probably be dead 10 times over. She was in the kitchen, promising herself she'd make sure his lifespan didn't get any shorter from now on. Irina, meanwhile, couldn't stop thinking about Frey. She was dying to know why he was hiding his identity. Part of her wanted to just ask straight up. But there was always that chance she was wrong, so she decided to just watch him for now and see if he really was a villain. Our hero, clueless about what Irina was planning, decided to just let Kanya handle the investigation before doing anything risky. Meanwhile, Klana was still out for Frey's blood. She ran straight to the Empress and demanded they arrest him. But since Frey had outsmarted them with that contract, the Empress said her hands were tied, and it couldn't be undone. Klana snapped something rude at her before storming out. Outside, her guard apologized for not getting any real proof, but Klana told him not to worry. She said all they had to do was frame Frey as the Demon Lord's helper, and eventually, he'd get executed. Felroche, being super easy to trick, was just along for the ride. Over at the cathedral, Felroche was done playing the fool and decided she was ready to start making her own moves, especially because she thought that red-haired demon was already up to no good. On the other hand, if something was unpredictable, but at least he still had Serena on his side. But he was so wrong about that. Out in the garden, Serena was picking flowers when she got a letter delivered by Owl from the Magic Master. The second she opened it, all her memories came rushing back, thanks to a deal she made with an old woman. With her memories restored, Serena started wondering if she should mess with the system herself. Frey, totally clueless, thought he could still control her with no penalty. But things were only getting crazier, and our MC promised himself he'd see it through, no matter how rough the path got. He'd protect this messed up world, even if it meant being the villain forever. Somewhere far away, in a dark cave, a big old dragon was chilling in its lair when a strange, cloaked figure walked right in, like they owned the place. The dragon, not amused, demanded to know who the hell they thought they were. But then, the figure pulled down the hood and, bam, revealed she was actually the Demon Lord. The dragon was so shocked it nearly fell over. But the Demon Lord just laughed and said she wasn't really there, just using an avatar. Then she told the dragon to go and summon her army, because it was finally time to start the war. She said they were going to take out the hero for good this time, then dropped a little history lesson. Manaka was the hero who saved the world 1,000 years ago, and Frey Rayon Starlight, our boy, was his descendant. Stuck, walking this crazy system and prophecy, playing the villain to unlock the hidden route. Now that he'd finished the dormitory mission, the real main quest was about to start. And bro, things were about to get wild. A few hours later, RMC was fighting hard against the Imperial Skull Knights, and the system slammed him with a third penalty stack. Ouch. But rewind a bit earlier that day, Frey was just being lazy in the Sun God Order, acting like he didn't have a care in the world. Felroche was straight up yelling at him to get moving and help. But Frey just shrugged and said it was hard to focus with that face she was making. The reason our boy was stuck dealing with her in the first place was because everyone thought he was the mastermind behind that crazy dormitory incident. With all the rumors about him working with the Demon Lord's army, people wanted him locked up, but the Imperial family and the Order covered for him. So he got stuck with the lamest punishment ever. helping get things ready for the Sun God Order's Orphanage Festival. And, get this, under Felrosh's command. But here was the catch. He couldn't do actual good deeds, or the system would eat his life away. So the poor guy was slacking off as much as possible. Still, Felrosh wasn't letting him out of her sight. He even asked her if she really thought he'd try something, especially after waking up from a 3-month coma. She just told him she had to watch him because he might pull some stunt again. Our MC was honestly surprised at how little credit she gave him, like, he'd have to be crazy to cause more trouble after all that. Suddenly, Felrosh mentioned she knew something weird was going on in the Order's basement, and suggested Frey was involved. He tried to play it cool and asked what she meant, but when she realized he had no clue, she immediately told him to forget about it. That only made him more interested. And right then, his system dinged with an important event. He was supposed to uncover a conspiracy with Felrosh and stop some evil plan brewing in the Sun God Order's basement. If he succeeded, he'd get the hero's armament and a small awakening. But if he failed, Felrosh would die. No pressure, right? Our boy was seriously shocked. He had never seen anything about this in the prophecy book, so he figured the quest was unavoidable. Right away, he acted like he knew all about the basement. Felrosh totally bought it and wanted to know what he was going to do. So Frey teased her, telling her they should go see for themselves. Secretly, someone else was eavesdropping on their conversation, but neither of them noticed. Soon, they headed for the basement. Felrosh was surprised a place like this actually existed. Frey checked the place out and was shocked it was Felrosh's first time seeing it. She told him she had tried to investigate before, but the guards at the door turned her away, saying it was just for illegal items. Frey guessed the guards wouldn't try too hard because everyone was busy with the festival, so at least they were lucky enough to get inside now. Felrosh, pumped to solve the case and expose the Demon Lord's army, got a little too excited, and Frey quietly wondered if she ever thought before speaking. While they walked, Frey spotted a broken stone slab with some weird kana writing on it, all about the god's lore. He was shocked. Why the hell was this here? The slab mentioned the sun god, the moon god, and the star god. Felrosh surprised him by saying she'd seen those characters before, over on the western continent, on some stone tablets. She said she even tried to figure them out, but gave up. Frey thought maybe he should go check it out himself someday. There might be something he needed over there. After a while, they found a big door, loaded with complicated magic seals. Frey thought it would take 10 guys working together to break through. But then, Felrosh just smashed them all with her bare fist. Our boy quickly took back what he was about to say. Never doubt a girl with fists like that. They went inside, and the place was huge. But what really got their attention was the army of undead just chilling there, waiting. Felrosh was shocked, asking how something so evil could be right under the church. Frey noticed that the undead had both sunlight and black magic in their aura. So, he figured out these were paladin undead corpses of actual paladins. But why so many? Felrosh pointed to a massive sacrificial magic circle directly above them, way bigger than the one they saw back at the dormitory. Realization hit Frey like a truck. He started laughing, like a proper villain, asking Felrosh if this answered her question. Why? She should have never followed him down here, now that she was defenseless. Felrosh snapped back, suddenly remembering she'd been suspecting him, and told him not to get too cocky. If things went to hell, she'd just use the sun god's protection. And just like that, our hero was deep in another mess. Undead, magic circles, and a ticking clock with Felrosh's life on the line. Bro, this was about to get seriously insane. Felrosh was still acting tough, thinking she could just blast anything with her sun god protection, but our boy quickly reminded her she had already burned it on breaking down the basement door. Whoops. Now that the poor girl was out of options, Frey took over, deciding it was time to lay out his evil master plan. First, he asked Felrosh what was sitting right above the giant sacrificial magic circle. It took her a second, but when she realized it was the Sun God Order's orphanage, the place packed with kids, celebrating the festival, her face went pale. Frey, putting on his best villain act, started flexing about how he could trigger the magic at the peak of the festival, turning everyone upstairs into an offering for the Demon King. Felrosh called him a monster and stormed off, vowing to stop him. He just told her to hurry up, since anyone left behind would be demon food. As soon as she left, our hero let out a tired sigh. He figured Felrosh would make sure everyone got out. She was just built that way, even if she never thought before acting. With the room empty, Frey turned to the real problem, the swarm of undead paladin knights closing in. He knew this was going to suck, but it was the only way to save everyone and still play the bad guy. The archers let loose, but our MC sliced through their arrows like a boss. Finally, with no one watching, he could fight like a real hero, for once. He tore into the skull soldiers, but these guys were relentless. They just kept getting back up, no matter how many he chopped down. And thanks to his double penalty from the system, it was way too easy for him to get overwhelmed. Frey realized he needed to go all out, so he unleashed his mana and pushed the pace. But he was already running out of stamina, and deep down he knew dragging this out would mess up his health even more. Still, he pushed on, demolishing undead left and right. Not far away, Irina was secretly watching everything. She'd had a suspicion for a while, ever since she found a rock in Grey Forest that had the same magical energy as Frey. Now, seeing him fight, she was sure Rihanna was really Frey. But the whole thing was confusing as hell. If he hated her, why would he save her? Why would he curse her, then protect her? She realized Frey only ever did bad things when other people were around. What was his deal? Really? Back in the chaos, Frey's speed was dropping fast. His body was about to give out. Suddenly, he spotted two giant skeletal mages behind the undead army, casting spells to charge up the sacrificial magic circle. If they finished, it was all over for the orphans upstairs. Frey knew he had to act fast, so he forced his battered body to charge, smashing through skull soldiers to reach the mages. Just as he was about to collapse, he leaped into the air and shattered both their arms. The spell fizzled out and the circle vanished. The orphanage was safe. But our guy was done. He crashed to the ground, completely spent. The undead weren't finished, though. They shambled over, ready to stab him on the floor. That's when Irina, always with the clutch timing, blasted them with fireballs and rushed to protect Frey. She tried to wake him up, but he was totally out cold. Irina tried to haul him away, but bro, the guy was heavy. Suddenly, the skeletons started coming for them again. Irina cursed her luck. She'd used up her last fire scroll, but then she found a spare scroll in her pocket and remembered her sketchy dealer, tossing her a freebie with her big purchase. Desperate, Irina ripped open the new scroll. A teleportation circle glowed under her feet. She realized, just in time, she'd gotten the wrong scroll. But, before she could even scream, the magic zapped both her and Frey away. The world spun, and they crashed into a tree in a totally new forest. Irina groaned, checked herself for injuries, and saw Frey was still breathing. Thank God. She glared at the used scroll and made a mental note to roast that shop owner for mixing up her order. But, as she looked around, she realized this was not Grey Forest. And then she saw it. The secret base Frey had built when they were kids. That meant they were close to the Starlight Estate, not far from home. Irina checked out the old hideout, knowing she'd have to face Frey soon with some real questions. She poured him a potion, hoping to speed up his recovery. The next morning, Frey woke up in the secret base, headache pounding, and saw Kanya right in his face, or so he thought. Kanya claimed she had saved him. He thanked her, still not noticing the person in front of him was actually Irina, using a disguise spell. She threw together a weird excuse about why she'd been in the basement, but Frey was too groggy to care. He looked around, confused, saying the place felt familiar. Irina tried to keep her cover, offering him some basic food she'd made, fruits and cooked fish. Frey looked suspicious, thinking it was a bit much for Kanya to cook up. He pointed out the ice dragon berry, saying it brought back memories. Then he joked that he couldn't remember the name, so he asked Kanya what he called those berries when they were kids. Irina answered, not knowing Frey had already seen through her act. Trying to keep him talking, Irina asked Frey to explain what happened down in the basement. He started telling her the whole crazy story of how he had to play the false hero, fighting evil while pretending to be the villain. By nightfall, he'd explained everything. The real Kanya wouldn't need this much info, he had told her already, but Irina just sat there, trying to wrap her head around it. After a while, she went outside for some air, completely overwhelmed. The minute she left, Frey grinned. He said to himself that he'd told her before she really sucked at acting. Irina was sitting by a pond, her mind spinning from all the crazy stuff she just learned about Frey. She stared at her own reflection, thinking about how she might have messed things up for him without even knowing. But, bro, she couldn't forget one little thing he did kill her in the last timeline. That pain was still there, no matter what. While she was lost in thought, out of nowhere, a ball of mana came flying at her. Instinct took over, and she blasted it away with her flames. She spun around, flames in hand, and demanded to know who was there. That was when Frey strolled out like it was nothing, saying that he'd found her and calling her Irina. Irina dropped her disguise with a sigh, admitting she should have realized it was his manna. Honestly, she looked a little annoyed. Our boy just shrugged and told her she didn't have to save him back there. He said he was ready to be hated for as long as it takes. Then, for once, he actually begged her just wait for him a little longer. Once everything was over, he promised he'd apologize to her properly. But until that day, he just wanted to protect her. Irina listened and then rolled her eyes. Calling him a pain, she pointed out that he was the one always crawling back from death, not her. She told him that if he died, he'd never get the chance to apologize, so she was not letting that happen. She said she'd keep him alive until she heard his apology with her own ears. That actually made our MC super happy, even if he tried not to show it. With that, Irina turned around to head back, whining about how she wasted a rare scroll for nothing. Frey just followed her, quiet, but inside, he was thinking hard. That teleport scroll was way too suspicious. He wondered if someone had set all this up on purpose. Meanwhile, in a smoky bar far from the academy, the owner Demirkin was closing up when a mysterious figure slipped inside, all cloak and shadows. Demirkin warned the late guest that the bar was closed, but the figure just dropped his name, like they'd known him forever. Demirkin's eyes went wide. He grinned, showing off his magic by cracking a plate in his hand, then called the stranger a special VIP. But now that his real identity was out, Demirkin wanted answers. He grabbed his sharpest tools, looked like he was ready to get serious, but the cloaked figure just snapped their fingers, and all of Demirkin's fancy magic fizzled in the air, useless. Before Demirkin could blink, he got zapped on the head with a magic attack so strong it left him shocked and stumbling. Realizing how easily his spatial magic was broken, Demirkin's voice got shaky as he asked if the mysterious guest was the Demon Lord. Right then, the figure pulled back their hood and greeted him, revealing herself as the Demon Lord for real. A couple days later, Frey finally woke up, feeling like a human being for once. He told Kanya he'd actually slept great, maybe for the first time in forever, and wondered if it was because he'd finally cleared some trial in his life. Kanya was super happy for him, telling him to rely on her whenever things got rough. But before she could finish, Irina burst in, and Kanya realized she was no longer his only confidant. Now, she was more like a loyal right hand. While Frey was gone with Irina, a few small problems had popped up, but nothing exploded into a disaster. When he got back, Kanya and Irina had talked things out and figured out how to work together. Irina shared some important news. Klana was the biggest threat now. She had noticed the changes in Kanya and was hiding it from everyone else. Since the dorm incident, Klana had been plotting to kill Frey at the first chance. She'd even convinced the Moonlight family elders to back her up, and she wasn't stopping until Frey was dead. Frey admitted Klana was dangerous, but pointed out the Senate was still out of her reach. He decided not to stress, since his main quest was to bust up the slave market anyway. He guessed that the Demon Lord's army was about to get serious too, just like the prophecy book said. Frey knew he had to plan carefully and dodge any assassination attempts since vacation was starting, and things were supposed to calm down for a bit. Yeah, good luck with that. On the last day before break, Miss Iseret dropped a bomb. There would be a special exam during vacation. Frey was totally confused and asked why they needed another test since they'd already finished their exams. Iseret explained that someone had been bribing people, so the scores couldn't be trusted. That meant everyone had to retest. Frey instantly knew this whole thing was aimed at him, and now all the others were in danger because of his actions. The students started complaining, but Klana shut them down, saying the retest order came straight from the imperial family. That made Frey's blood run cold. He realized Klana must have found some powerful supporters. Miss Iseret then explained the rules. The exam was a defensive siege. Each team had to protect a representative, and whoever kept their rep safe until the end would win. The rep would be chosen by vote, so Iseret split everyone into commoner and noble teams and told them to pick their star player. Frey figured all the commoners would vote for Klana. As for the nobles, he didn't know, but he was sure nobody in their right mind would pick him. He was basically branded as the Demon Lord's minion. A few minutes later, he and Klana were called up to the stage. RMC muttered that the people who voted for him were idiots, but before he could say more, Iseret announced the results. Klana was the noble team's representative, and Frey was the commoner team's rep. The students totally lost it, yelling about how that could be possible. Iseret just smiled and told them she never said their choice would be the actual representative. She left it at that, then told both teams to figure out their defense plans, because the winner's rep would be given the right to expel anyone from the class. Frey's stomach dropped. If he got expelled, he'd break the system contract and lose everything. He realized right then he had to win this match, no matter what. After school ended, our boy Frey was rolling out with Kanya, Irina, and a group of commoners, heading back to his mansion. He dropped some real talk on Kanya and Irina, telling them their team was totally screwed for the upcoming exam. If things went bad, the other side could just run for the Imperial Palace and hide. But Kanya, always full of surprises, let him know she had already contacted her main family to get support for the big exam. Plus, Irina had told the commoners that maybe Frey wasn't as much of a jerk as he looked, so they might want to cooperate with him for real. Frey grumbled about how the prophecy book he relied on was always just a little bit off, never giving him the full story. Still, he sucked it up and asked the others for their help anyway. Then, out of nowhere, the carriage slammed to a stop. Frey started yelling at the rider for being reckless, but the guy said someone just jumped in front of them in the road. The rider shouted at the stranger to get lost. But instead, the dude apologized and introduced himself as Domirkin. Frey's stomach dropped. He remembered that name, Domirkin, the Demon Lord's army's second commander. Things just got a whole lot sketchier. Frey told Kanya and Irina to stay back while he checked it out, but Kanya pushed back, saying it was too dangerous to go alone. Frey told her not to worry. Since Domirkin wasn't the type to attack right away, he probably had some weird reason for showing up. Irina wasn't having it either, saying that if this was about Frey, she should know what was going on too. Kanya agreed, so Frey finally said fine. But he had to do the talking. When they all walked out, Domirkin looked at Kanya and Irina and wanted to know who they were. Frey just called them his subordinates, which seriously annoyed Irina, but she let it go because she wanted to hear what this whole meeting was about. That's when Domirkin got to the point. He told Frey to come with him. Frey wasn't having it, accusing Domirkin of trying to kidnap him. But Domirkin explained the meeting couldn't even start unless Frey was there. Frey asked what the hell that meant, and Domirkin said, super happy that Frey had become part of the Demon King's army's highest rank, echelon. Everybody just froze. Irina and Kanya looked like their brains exploded. Frey wanted to know if Domirkin was messing with him, so he checked his system to see if this was a lie. But nope, Domirkin was actually serious. Frey had no clue how this happened, but it was real. He decided it was actually a great chance to find out how strong the Demon Lord's army really was. Even if this was a trap, he didn't want to lose the opportunity. So, he told Kanya and Irina to go on without him. Both girls looked at him like he'd lost his mind. But he told them to trust him. This could be a big break. Kanya told him to run for it if things got shady, while Irina said she'd handle explaining everything to the others. With all that sorted, Frey told Domirkin to get moving. Domirkin grinned and opened up a portal, warning Frey he might feel dizzy on the way. Irina and Kanya watched, totally worried, as Frey and Domirkin disappeared into the portal. When Frey showed up at the meeting, he saw all kinds of demons and monsters waiting. They looked absolutely hungry for a fight, and when they spotted him, the room, filled with whispers, what was a human doing here? Frey couldn't even guess what the Demon Lord was thinking, but he was told to take a seat. That's when Domirkin told him flat out that he was now the Demon Lord Army's number 2, just like Domirkin. Our MC was like, is this a trap or what? But everything looked legit, and the treatment was actually pretty nice for a top villain. Frey gave Domirkin a nervous grin and said it all seemed a little too convenient. Domirkin just replied that the Demon Lord wanted it this way. Frey checked with his system again, still, no lies. So he figured if the Demon Lord planned it, maybe it could work out for him. He started thinking about grilling Domirkin for info. But then, a giant ogre demon named Rihir jumped up, looking like he was ready to smash something. Rihir yelled at everyone to stop, stomped over, and said he had a big problem with this decision. He claimed he'd always obeyed Domirkin as the Demon Lord's stand-in, but there was no way he was letting some weak human like Frey outrank him. He told Frey to get his sword ready, because he was about to get crushed like a bug. Frey, trying to keep things cool, asked if objections were allowed. Domirkin explained that in the Demon Lord's army, anyone who thought they were stronger could challenge their boss anytime. Domirkin agreed, and, with a snap of his fingers, the whole room flipped into an arena. Guess this was just a normal Tuesday for demons. Now, standing in the makeshift arena, Rihir started showing off. He bragged about being from a long line of top demons and orcs, and said he'd heard Frey was also the descendant of a great hero. Rihir said he was going to beat Frey right here and prove Domirkin was a fraud. Without wasting a second, Rihir charged at Frey, swinging hard. Frey blocked the attack, and the two started trading blows. Rihir was actually impressed, and told Frey he wanted to see how long he could hold out. Frey was like, who does this guy think he is? But the huge orc just kept coming, yelling at Frey to show his true power. Our MC was not having any of that. He was already in a bad mood, and this idiot was just making it worse. He shot Rihir, a death glare, and Rihir suddenly realized he messed up big time, as Frey's mana exploded. He warned Rihir that it was too late for regrets because he was super pissed. Rihir saw the writing on the wall and tried to surrender on the spot, but Frey didn't care. He smashed Rihir in the jaw, sending the big guy flying and knocking him out cold. Frey turned to the rest of the demons and said if anyone else had complaints, they could come try him too. But after seeing how fast Rihir got wrecked, nobody said a word. Demirkan congratulated Frey, brought everyone back to the meeting room, and walked him to his seat, saying there was no way anyone would challenge the Demon Lord's orders now. But Frey was just getting started. Instead of sitting down, he called out Demirkan, challenging him to a fight right then and there. He pointed out that it didn't make sense having two people both ranked number 2. Demirkan understood what Frey was saying, but seemed weirdly impressed by how fast Frey was adjusting to all this crazy stuff. And just like that, Frey made his choice. Not to follow the Demon Lord's plans, not to play by his own system's rules, but to become the wild card nobody could predict. Dude was done playing by anyone else's book. Demirkan seemed pretty amused that our boy Frey wanted to fight him right away. He told Frey he was an interesting guy, but they couldn't waste time. So he suggested they just settle things in a single round and get on with the meeting. Frey agreed, thinking this was perfect. Demirkan was known for never dragging out his battles, just like himself. The two lined up, looking ready for a showdown. Demirkan said it had been a while since he'd fought anyone like this, so he apologized in advance if he misjudged his own strength. He wasn't kidding either. He went full blast with his first move, launching a crazy strong attack. But our MC just grinned and pulled out a quick slash, matching Demirkan's power exactly. The two attacks smashed into each other, and for a second, it looked like nothing would happen, just a straight-up draw. Demirkan figured that was probably it, but Frey had other plans. He announced he still had another move, and Demirkan suddenly realized he was in trouble. Turns out, Frey had already trapped all the open space in the room with his earlier sword lights. Demirkan started to wonder how far ahead Frey had planned this, and if maybe Frey had been waiting for this very moment all along. What kind of mad genius was this guy? Before Demirkan could do anything, Frey went in for the next move, slashing right through the demon's space magic and landing a solid hit. Demirkan crashed to the ground and admitted defeat, while Frey basically told the whole room that the number 2 spot was his now. He asked if anyone had a problem with that, but the rest of the demons just sat there, too scared to say a word. So, our hero decided to get down to business. He said he'd let Demirkan run the meeting, this time, since he was new to the whole Demon Council thing. Demirkan nervously started the agenda, making Frey realize just how real the pecking order was in this place. For the first time, the guy actually felt a little creeped out by how much power he had. Frey figured this new position was a goldmine for info about the Demon Lord's army. All he had to do was pick out the useful stuff and ignore the rest. Demirkan moved on, pulling out some photos and passing them around. When Frey took a look, he recognized the slave market from his own major quest. Demirkan talked through all their plans and problems, while Frey soaked up every detail, ready to use the demons for his own goals. Meanwhile, the carriage with Irina and Kanya was rolling toward the mansion. Irina obviously worried about Frey, but Kanya kept saying he'd be fine, though she definitely didn't look sure herself. Even when Irina tried to change the subject, Kanya just kept mumbling that Frey would be okay. Yeah, not exactly convincing, bro. Back at the Starlight Mansion, as soon as the carriage pulled up, Kanya got to work. She reminded herself about the task Frey gave her. Soon, a group of commoner students was brought in. Kanya told the old servants, just like they'd been warned, that they needed to leave that day. Then she turned to the new arrivals and told them they were now the mansion's new servants. The commoners started grumbling, but Kanya shut them down right away, clapping her hands and telling them to change into their uniforms. No complaints allowed, it was Lord Frey's command. Some girl tried to send a letter with an owl, but Kanya, spying through her magic cat doll, caught the whole thing. Later, Frey finally showed up. Kanya rushed over, obviously worried. He greeted the girls cheerfully, but quickly noticed they both looked super pale. He asked them if something was wrong, but Irina said nothing, just asking what he'd been doing with the Demon Lord's army. Frey gave them the short version. He was now the second in command, not just some executive. Irina nearly lost it and demanded the whole story, but Frey promised to explain everything later. He also let them know he had already used his power to order the demons to attack the Moonlight family's council of elders instead of him. Irina realized then that our MC really was thinking several moves ahead. Frey asked Kanya if she'd handled his request, and she reported that everything went as planned. Just like Frey predicted, there was a spy among the commoner students, someone working for Klana. Kanya told him the spy's name was Alice. Frey pretty much expected that. Frey started to explain everything about the meeting, but Irina told him not to bother with the details right now and suggested he get some rest instead. She pointed out that he looked skinny, like he'd lost a bunch of weight since she last saw him. Frey just shrugged it off, saying he was fine and only hungry because nobody served food at the demon meeting. Both girls were left stunned by how bold this guy was, complaining about snacks after bossing around a bunch of demons. Our hero was totally in his own league. Our boy Frey was ready for a good meal, but as soon as he sat down, he saw what was on his plate and just stared, thinking there was no way in hell he was eating that. He could tell right away the food was poisoned, like, not even subtle, bro. So, he started yelling at the cook, asking if she was using him for some kind of wild experiment. While he was at it, he got hit with some heavy déjà vu, remembering all the times he used to bark at Kania for trying to poison him back in the day. Man, some things never change. The cook, looking like she was about to cry, started complaining that she didn't know the ingredients very well and was just doing her best. Frey rolled his eyes and asked her name. As soon as she said, Alice, our MC knew exactly who she was. This girl was Klana's spy, supposed to stop the attack and lead the revolution in the school at some point. Frey thought it made sense. Klana was too smooth not to use someone like Alice. Then he gave Alice a full scolding, not holding back at all. He tossed out some classic rich boy trash talk, saying, commoners would never understand real food or real work, and that was exactly why he hated them. They couldn't do a single thing right. He said her food was basically livestock feed and threw the dish on the floor, totally shocking her. He told her never to serve him anything like that again. And before leaving, he made sure to tell her he was different from her kind. Cold move, bro. Then he just stormed off. Right on cue, Kanya chased after him, super worried, trying to calm him down. But Frey just told her to keep quiet and kept going, acting like nothing could faze him. Meanwhile, poor Alice was left standing there, totally crushed from the insults and all the drama. But when a friend ran up, worried about her, Alice just forced a smile and said she would deal with it until vacation was over. She really was tougher than people thought. A few nights later, our MC was chilling outside, surprised at how many villain points he'd racked up just from acting like a jerk, but he figured he could always earn a few more, just in case. He realized it had been 6 days since the big siege started, and he wondered why Klana still hadn't made a move yet. Frey remembered he'd set up some insurance with the Demon Lord's army for the Council of Elders, but the demons said they couldn't move right away. Suddenly, he heard swords clashing inside the mansion. He wondered if Klana or her people were finally making their move. Not wasting any time, Frey grabbed his sword and ran straight for the mansion. When he got there, he saw his servants knocked out cold. He tried shaking them awake, hoping to get some info, but when he saw they weren't too badly hurt, he dashed straight inside, hoping everyone else was okay. As soon as he entered, he could tell the air was poisoned. Classic, Moonlight, family, move. He quickly covered his nose, thinking, if you even breathe this stuff in, you're out for hours. Not good. So, he started using his astral mana to clear out the poison. Even though it was rough on his body, sometimes being the hero just sucked. When he got to the hallway, almost everybody was down for the count. Frey heard a noise upstairs and headed there fast. That's when he spotted a ninja creeping around. Frey snuck up behind him and bonked the dude with his sword, dropping him. After checking out the dead messenger, Frey realized this wasn't part of the siege. They were running their own operation for Klana. So, our guy got sneaky. He put on the ninja's outfit and went to report to the next higher-up. The upper ninja just clicked his tongue and said they needed to hurry, since they'd lost time. Frey played it cool and agreed, glad the dude didn't notice he was a fake. He figured he needed to find out what the ninjas were really after and make them spill Klana's whole plan, plus whatever the elders were up to. Meanwhile, down in the basement, Alice found Felroche, lying there, totally unconscious. Alice assured her worried friend that she was fine, and said the basement was way safer than the halls or rooms right now. She mentioned how most people were knocked out, and she doubted they could carry everyone out themselves. She told her friend They should get help. As they left, Alice grumbled that Frey might be trash, who deserved to die. But the Council of Elders really shouldn't have dragged everyone into this mess. The plan wasn't matching up with what she'd been told, and she started to wonder if the Elders had changed things behind Klana's back. But all that thinking wouldn't fix anything, so she decided she just needed to get people out safely. But then her friend heard footsteps. Uh-oh. Upstairs, the ninjas had all gathered. Their boss told them the target was Frey, and it didn't matter what happened to anyone else. If any student saw their faces or got in the way, they were supposed to kill them. With that, he ordered everybody to move out. Frey, always alert, rushed to the nearest mana signature he could feel. When he got to the room, he noticed the air was actually clean. Someone had pushed out the poison using mana, which was a smart move. He checked the room and found a group of students hiding under a big cloak. They looked terrified and started whispering prayers, but Frey told them to be quiet. Not their lucky day, though. A ninja showed up, asking if anyone was in the room. Frey lied, saying he'd found a hidden passage. Curious, the ninja stepped over to look under the cloak. As soon as he peeked inside, Frey killed him. Fast and silent. Then, he turned to the students, telling them to follow him and stay absolutely quiet if they wanted to get out alive. He led them out, and they were super grateful, asking him why he was helping them. But before he could even answer, a comm device went off, announcing a change of plans, and saying contact with the other ninjas was lost. Frey signaled the students to keep quiet. The voice over the comm assumed the students fought back, and Frey started to worry they'd been found out. Then, the voice dropped a bomb. They'd just been told the Council of Elders was attacked by demons. Frey felt a rush of satisfaction, because that meant his plan was working. But, before he could enjoy it, the next announcement floored him. The ninjas were ordered to set the mansion on fire. Suddenly, the comm was filled with shouting, and Frey knew things were about to get absolutely insane. Irina was not messing around. As soon as she saw that ninja barking out orders, she lit him up with fire magic. Dude didn't even have time to scream. Ariane rushed up, all excited, and told Irina she'd found a way downstairs to the first floor. Irina took charge, telling everyone to stick close behind her. But as soon as she started down, another ninja crossed her path. She tensed up, ready to throw hands, but the ninja gave her a sign to be quiet. That's when Irina squinted and checked his aura, thinking there was something off about this guy. She started wondering if it was actually Frey under that mask. But before she could say anything, our boy dipped out fast, leaving Ariane confused and asking questions. Irina just told her that getting out of the mansion was the smartest move right now, and they all rushed off. Frey watched the girls leave, and when the coast was clear, he headed straight for the basement to get everything under control. On the way, he bumped into Alice and another student. Alice looked freaked out, standing protectively in front of her friend, blurting out that her friend had nothing to do with any of this, and begging Frey not to hurt anyone else. She even said she'd take the blame for everything. That threw Frey for a second, making him wonder if Alice was working for the Council of Elders directly, not just Klana. But instead of acting scary, he just told her to go. Alice couldn't believe her luck, and quickly thanked him, telling him a bunch of students were still knocked out in the basement warehouse and begging him to keep them safe. Frey nodded, promising he'd do his best, and Alice left him with another thank you. But our hero was starting to feel the pain. Clearing out poison with mana was brutal on the body, and after all those tense meetings with the Demon Lord's army, he was definitely not at 100%. No time for whining, though. He had to move. He shot straight for the basement, even as his whole body screamed for a break. Suddenly, a kunai came flying at him out of nowhere. Frey spun around and found himself face to face with the ninja boss, who wasn't fooled one bit. The boss sneered, saying Frey wasn't with the Council of Elders, and demanded to know who he really was. Frey just clicked his tongue, annoyed at running into the big boss in a place like this. He reached for his katana, ready to throw down. The boss was already pulling out his own blades, bragging that he'd chop Frey into 8 pieces and only leave his mouth behind. Real weirdo energy. But Frey just grinned, telling him the ones getting sliced would be anyone who messed with innocent students. With that, Frey charged at him, basically promising to shred the whole squad. The fight was intense. Frey dodged a nasty slice, but then realized there were more enemies hiding. He counted 3 in total. Suddenly, his heart started aching. Just great, right when he needed full strength. The 3 ninjas came at him, trading blows. Frey managed to knock one out, but another ninja stabbed his foot. That hurt, but Frey retaliated by kicking the guy. Then, before he could catch his breath, he got stabbed from behind. The ninja told him it was over, but Frey was like, Not today. He grabbed the blade, forced mana out of his body, and locked the ninja in place. The ninja panicked. Realizing he couldn't move or pull his weapon out, Frey gave him a taste of his own medicine and hit right back. Even as the guy tried to run after stabbing Frey in the torso, bleeding and definitely pissed off, Frey remembered that his original goal was to learn the Council of Elders' secrets. But with the Demon Lord's army already wrecking the Elders, he figured he didn't need that anymore. He had to focus on the students now. He staggered towards the warehouse, feeling dizzy, probably from losing too much blood and maybe a touch of poison. Honestly, things were going downhill fast. That's when Irina's voice cut through the fog. She spotted Frey's injuries right away and refused to buy his tough guy act about being fine. She said he could lean on her and even let him use her shoulder while they walked. Frey tried to insist he was okay, but told her about the students stuck underground. Irina wasted no time. She brought him straight there, and together they found Felroche and a bunch of others knocked out on the floor. Frey said they'd have to split up and carry everyone out, and Irina just stared at him, surprised he was still standing. With her new magic skills, all thanks to Kania's training, Irina used magic to gently lift the unconscious students and started carrying them outside. Before leaving, she told Frey not to dare move or do anything dumb while she was gone, otherwise she'd make him regret it. Frey just sighed and waited. But while sitting there, he spotted a book on the ground. Looked like Felroche's diary. Curiosity got the best of him, even though Irina had told him to chill. He opened it up and saw Felroche had written out important notes and things she really couldn't forget. One instruction stood out: to read the first character of each date together. Frey figured it was some weird code, so he flipped through the pages, piecing together the secret message. The deeper he read, the creepier it got. When he finally cracked the code, it spelled out something wild. Half-demon god. Our boy was straight up lost. He had no clue what she meant. So, he started wondering if Felroche had picked up on something huge that he completely missed. Right then, Irina came back and offered to give him a piggyback ride. Frey was embarrassed and told her he was too heavy, thinking she should just use magic to move him. But Irina said her mana was basically done for, so piggybacking was the best option. With no other choice, Frey let her lift him up and carry him out. On the way, Irina warned him that Iseret and Klana were outside the mansion, and finding them would be a pain, so it was better to stay low. Frey totally agreed, knowing Klana was probably hunting him down to confirm if he was alive or not. Outside, Klana learned her ninja squad failed. No surprise there, and Frey couldn't help but think Klana's hate for him was getting real spicy. Once they reached the woods, Irina gently lowered Frey down, then immediately started checking his injuries. She noticed how bad he was bleeding and was honestly shocked he wasn't dead yet. She tried to calm him down, telling him Kania would be there soon to help. But right in that moment, an owl swooped down, carrying a letter. As soon as it saw Irina, the bird went full psycho, ramming into her and clawing her with its talons. The chaos woke Frey up, and he saw the owl, instantly recognizing it as Serena's pet. The bird landed calmly on his hand, like it was used to this mess. Frey stared at it and wondered what kind of crazy message Serena was sending him this time.